Within the stone walls of St. Jude's Academy, a scrap of parchment is flicked at our protagonist, Arthur. Just a small, annoying piece of trash. It thumps onto his desk. Arthur looks back, only for his classmate, Julian, to offer a fake apology. He claims his aim was just off. Julian says he was trying to hit the person sitting in the front row. The problem? Arthur knows there isn't a single soul sitting in front of him. The game escalates. A hail of debris starts flying as Arthur just sits there, his hair already littered with scraps of paper and dust. Finally, he turns around, his voice trembling as he begs them to stop. But Julian, he's insulted. He looms over Arthur's desk, snarling. Terrified, Arthur tries to play the fool. He stammers that the constant pelting is too much, and he just wants some peace in the classroom. Crack, Julian's fist slams into Arthur's temple. He calls him a pathetic idiot, grabbing Arthur's hair and yanking his head back with brutal force. "Are you slow, peasant?" Julian mocks. Arthur can only choke out an apology, but Julian is just getting started. He raises his fist again. Another blow lands. Julian laughs, asking if he should really stop just because a weakling asked him to. Around them, the other students just watch. Not a single person moves to help. Suddenly, someone hisses that the proctor is coming. The classroom doors swing open as the teacher strides in. Arthur feels a surge of hope. Surely, the teacher will see his bruises. Both the victim and the bully turn their eyes toward the authority figure. The teacher barely glances at them, telling them to stop playing around. Julian flashes a winning, innocent smile and sits back down immediately. Arthur is left trembling, bruised and broken-hearted. He wonders if his entire life is just one big, sick joke, but the torment doesn't end there. Julian scribbles a note and hands it off, making sure it reaches the back. A classmate sticks it right onto Arthur's spine. It's a target. The note reads, "Nameless bastard," and the room erupts in muffled laughter. Arthur is covered in bruises, realizing there isn't a single person he can trust. The teacher asks for the date. Since it's the 14th, he tells the class to recite the text 14 times. A mindless task for a mindless room. Arthur stares at his desk, realizing the adults in this kingdom simply do not care. He is invisible. He is completely and utterly alone. Later, the bell tolls. A tall student stalks through the halls, demanding a cigarette. Julian, eager to impress the big fish, jumps at the chance. Desperate for the top dog's favor, Julian invites him for a smoke. But the boy stops, his eyes landing on Arthur. He grabs Arthur's shirt. "What's this?" the boy asks, sneering at the note. He mocks them for acting like children before reading the words, "Nameless bastard." He asks who wrote it. Julian, thinking he's being clever, brags that it was him. He says it's fun to break the low-born orphan's spirit. The atmosphere shifts. The tall boy's face darkens as he crumples the note. Sensing the danger, Julian begins to sweat, trying to backtrack. Before Julian can finish his lie, a massive fist shatters his jaw. Blood and saliva spray across the hallway as the bully is sent flying. Julian hits the stone floor hard, the force of the impact leaving him breathless. But the tall boy isn't done with him yet, not even close. A brutal kick lands square in Julian's stomach, making the bully gasp for air in agonizing pain. The power dynamic has completely flipped. "Are you insane?" the boy growls, demanding Julian repeat his insults. He continues the beatdown while Arthur watches, frozen in absolute shock. He asks Julian if he actually thinks he's a tough guy. He gives a final warning. If he sees this garbage again, Julian is a dead man. He points a finger at our protagonist. "What's your name, kid?" Julian, trembling and bloody, stammers out the name. It's Quan Arthur Vance. The tall boy declares that no one is to lay a finger on Arthur again. At that moment, Arthur's world feels like it stopped spinning. It worked. After those words, the bullying stopped. Arthur realizes the problem wasn't just the students, it was the teachers who let it happen. In this school, the word of an elite sentinel was law. No one dared to cross him, even if the top dog was a monster himself. Compared to a real predator, Julian was nothing but a pathetic insect. But the realization left a bitter taste in Arthur's mouth. At home, Arthur stares at his reflection. He hates himself. He hates that his safety depends on the mercy of another bully. The sadness in his eyes turns to fire. "I need to be the one with the power," he whispers, and so the grueling grind begins. Every single day, hundreds of push-ups, devouring scrolls on ancient self-defense, running until his legs give out just to build his iron will. He studies the footage of legendary gladiators, learning how to strike and move. He notices his body changing, his weight shifting into muscle. He pushes past his limits, getting bigger and broader by the day. The skinny boy is being buried under layers of pure, hardened strength. Months pass. Arthur is a mountain of a man now, performing incredible feats of strength while still studying the art of war. He returns to the academy. The hallways go silent. Is this the same kid? The students whisper, their eyes wide with genuine fear. "Don't go near him," a student warns. "He's not a victim anymore, he's a monster." The reputation of the new king spreads like wildfire. Arthur walks the halls, feeling the repressed rage finally finding its peace. He is no longer invisible. Now no one dares to blink. But power has a price, and things can crumble in an instant. The scene shifts to a quiet, sun-drenched neighborhood shop. We see Arthur again, but he's different. Glasses hide his eyes and a rough beard covers his jaw. A customer walks through the door. "Welcome," he says, adjusting his spectacles. He thinks to himself that this quiet, simple life is all he has left now. Moments later, in a high-stakes office, a young man is staring down the president of the academy. Even a real bully folds, and a woman is. A noble lady presents her grand design, Project King of the Streets. The goal, plant a single agent inside to seize absolute command of the local gangs. By ruling the thugs, they control the city's chaos. But one man asks if fighting violence with more violence is really the answer. The Archduke just smiles, thinks it sounds like a blast. His advisor, totally horrified. Then the Archduke poses the million-gold question. Is there anyone actually capable of leading a pack of savage wolves? Cut to a quiet corner of the kingdom. Arthur's trying to study his scrolls, but his brain just isn't in it. He slams the book shut. Done. His senior clerk grumbles about lazy youth having no fire, while Arthur contemplates quitting his studies and this dead-end job both. Meanwhile, a pack of street rats is shaking down a kid. The poor boy begs to keep his copper for his mother's medicine, but they just laugh. Suddenly, a man catches the bully's eye. He tells the lackey to leave the kid alone and go fetch some tobacco instead. The bully obeys. Two of the thugs wander off and end up at the very shop where Arthur works. Arthur's cowardly coworker immediately bolts for the staff room. The thug slams his hand down, demanding 2 pouches of Highland tobacco. Arthur takes one look at them, clearly academy students. He calmly asks to see their guild identification. The bully bristles. "Forgot it. Just hand him over and keep your mouth shut, peasant. It's no big deal." Arthur doesn't blink. "No papers, no tobacco." The girl with him sneers, calling Arthur a rude commoner. The thug gets close, whispering that rude people tend to die young. His heavy-set friend just grunts in agreement. The student throws some coins, demanding he hurry. Arthur stares at the money, thinking this guy's a total jerk, but he still insists on those papers. The thug slams 2 bottles on the counter. The girl looks nervous, wondering why he's drinking this early in the day. Arthur starts to say, "Excuse me," but he doesn't even get to finish his sentence. The thug snaps. "Are you deaf?" The girl is shaking. Then he grabs Arthur by the tunic and hauls him forward. He calls Arthur an idiot, staring him down and threatening a beating. The clerk shouts that the bully already stole the goods. The clerk sees the situation escalating and starts panicking like crazy. He points out there are other customers and tells them to settle this outside. Arthur stares at his boss in pure disbelief. Out in the alley, the bully is still clutching his collar, mocking him. "Where'd all that attitude go, huh?" Arthur's voice is cold. "Let go, you have 3 seconds." The girl just cackles. "This guy's mental." Arthur doesn't care. He starts counting. 1, 2, the thug pulls back for a punch. You're really gonna count, the bully screams, swinging his fist with everything he's got. Blink and the perspective shifts. The bully is flat on his back, staring at the sky. Arthur's just standing there, hands in his pockets. The girl is screaming at him to get up. He's in total shock. He didn't even see it. The girl tells him he got dropped instantly, then asks Arthur why he's still looming over them. She hauls the bully up. He's spitting curses, claiming Arthur only hit him because he was distracted. Then he whispers, "Call the others." She didn't catch that. "What?" he bellows. "Get the others," she bolts. The battered thug sneers at Arthur. "You're dead meat. You have no idea who you just messed with." And then, Arthur's presence changes. It gets heavy, terrifying. He steps up, hand heavy on the kid's shoulder. "How old are you?" The kid is shaking now, stammering. "Why do you care?" Arthur squeezes the collarbone hard. The bully drops to his knees, howling that he's only 17. He's begging now. Arthur leans in. "If I catch you buying tobacco again, I'll kill you for real." Right on cue, a whole squad of academy teenagers arrives. They stop dead, seeing their tough friend kneeling before a simple shopkeeper. Arthur looks at the new arrivals. "Your friends. Good, hope you're all coming." A massive guy steps forward. "Who are you? An adult or some stray student?" He introduces himself as Silas from Blackwood Academy. Silas lunges, but Arthur is a ghost. He dodges and delivers a slap so thunderous it echoes through the alley. The force is insane. Spit flies everywhere as Silas hits the ground, brain rattled. The girl can't believe her eyes. Arthur just sighs. "I'm on a tight schedule, all of you now." The rest of the squad thinks he's bluffing. One lunges with a wild punch. Arthur's hand finally leaves his pocket, bam, straight to the jaw. Another charges. Arthur slides out of the way like it's a dance. He follows up with a brutal elbow to the temple. That one's out cold. A third tries to sneak up from behind. Arthur spins, dodges the strike, and finishes the rotation with a heavy hook to the skull. Total precision. The first bully, back on his feet, desperation in his eyes, grabs a stray bottle. "Now I'm gonna finish this." Arthur doesn't even turn. He catches the reflection in the glass and drives a punch straight into the kid's gut. The bully doubles over, losing his lunch from the sheer force. One punch, that's all it took to send him crashing into the dirt. Damon looks at the last guy standing, the only one left. "Well," he asks, "you coming or what?" The survivor is trembling, staring at Damon like he's seeing a ghost. "That's strength. There's only one man who hits like that. Are you him? Are you Damon of the Iron Vanguard?" A girl in the crowd gasps. "Damon, you mean the legendary commander who took over the entire Iron Stronghold in just 7 days?" Word on the street is that it's safer to take a crossbow bolt to the chest than to face him in a fight. He's a total monster. But looking at him now, she's not so sure. He doesn't look like a legendary conqueror. Maybe the rumors were just tall tales. The survivor, however, isn't taking chances. He bows low, begging for forgiveness. "It won't happen again, Master. I swear." Damon just grabs the bully's head, his voice like ice. "No shame, huh, causing trouble like this." Then Damon turns his gaze toward the girl. It's intense, terrifying, actually. He points at the bodies littering the ground. "So, what are we doing with these guys?" The girl's friend asks if they should call a healer to take them to the infirmary. Damon just scoffs. He isn't talking about helping them. He walks over and delivers a sharp slap to one of the unconscious thugs. "Wake up! Show S over." The guy groans, asking what happened. His buddy tells him to shut up and get moving. Suddenly, the whole crew is on their feet, standing in perfect formation and bowing. Total submission. Damon lays down the law. If any of them ever darken the door of this shop again, they're finished. "Do I make myself clear?" "Yes, senior," they shout in unison. Turns out, these thugs are all his old juniors from the Vanguard. Later that night, Damon heads home, annoyed he missed his study time but secretly enjoying the rush. He enters a quiet room where a woman is waiting for him. He tries to brush her off, but she's persistent. "I have a proposal for you," she says, handing him a gold-trimmed card. It's an invitation to Dragon's Crest Academy. Back at the Grand Manor, the head mistress asks if the deal is done. Did he accept the contract? The woman just smiles. Fast forward to the academy gates. Damon is standing there, actually looking happy. He's finally back in school. He's 20 years old and starting his first year of higher education. A bit late to the party, sure, but he's here. The plan: use a legendary wolf to hunt the academy's own pack of bullies. The headmistress confirms it. She needs his specialized skills to clean up the halls. Damon is skeptical. Why play these games instead of just running the school properly? He asks. The woman just gives him a knowing look. I've seen your record, Damon. We both know you can't turn this down. She steps closer, her voice a whisper. Don't act all high and mighty. You need this. It's the only way to bury your past mistakes and start fresh. Damon sighs. Fine, how do we do this? Next thing you know, he's in the academy uniform, walking down the halls. He's catching eyes everywhere. A prefect is barking orders at students to get to their classrooms. Inside the hall, things are already messy. One student is being forced to carry another like a literal human chair. Meet the class rep, Cedric. Cedric asks his lackeys about the new transfer student. Hear anything about the fresh meat? At that moment, he kicks his chair away like trash. Good ride, he sneers. Then he starts mocking a girl, asking if the last kid left because she pulled his trousers down. The girl tells him to shut his mouth. Cedric just laughs. Maybe he just couldn't handle being our errand boy. He should have just bought our rations and stayed quiet. The master arrives, his expression cold as stone. Everyone to your seats. Now, he gestures to the door. We have a new arrival. Damon walks in. The introduction is short and sweet. The girls in the room, completely stunned. He's easily the most handsome guy they've seen. Even the guys are impressed. One girl, Alina, immediately starts fixing her makeup. Meanwhile, Cedric's lackey asks what he thinks. Cedric just smiles a nasty, predatory smile. I already feel sorry for the guy. I'm going to have so much fun breaking him. There's an empty seat next to a nervous-looking boy named Miles. Damon sits down and asks for his name. Miles looks like he's seen a ghost. I'm Miles, the boy whispers. Listen, this class, it's different, be careful. Damon just nods and puts on his reading glasses. I'm here to study. Suddenly, Cedric stands up. Time to start the day. He walks over, trying to act friendly. Hey, new guy, what's the prescription on those specs? Damon looks up. 1.5 in both eyes. Miles watches, terrified, as Cedric winds up a punch. Bam! Cedric slams his fist into Miles' head instead. Hard. He looks satisfied with himself while the rest of the class sits in shocked silence. Damon freezes. Where did that come from? Cedric just smirks down at Miles. Go fetch me a sausage roll from the kitchens, now. Miles stammers, me. Cedric's eyes darken. Yeah, you. Our old friend wasn't very loyal, so you're the new delivery boy. He looks over at Damon. The newcomer doesn't look like he wants to work, so you're responsible for the rations from now on. He grabs Miles by the face, digging his fingers in. Understand. Miles is shaking, pointing out that class has already started. Across the room, another bully starts laughing. Check out the brain on this one, stating the obvious. Cedric thanks Miles for the reminder, his voice dripping with sarcasm. Then he snaps. Close your eyes, both of you. The whole class shuts their eyes tight, paralyzed by fear. Damon just watches, disgusted. This whole situation, completely pathetic. Another punch to Miles' head. I said close them, you idiot. You want to die today. Arthur sneers with pure sarcasm, thanking the squire for stating the obvious before snapping under the sheer pressure of the moment. He orders the boy to shut his eyes, and several students follow suit out of blind terror. Our hero, Alistair, can't believe how pathetic this whole display is. A heavy blow to the head follows as the bully calls the boy a fool, asking if he's literally begging for a grave. Arthur glares at the brute, ordering him to unhand the boy, as his mind flashes back to earlier. Hours ago, our newcomer was reviewing the strict academy rules, wondering if he truly had to obey. His handler confirms it. This is a secret mission, and in this noble jungle, slip-ups mean certain death. She explains that only the strongest survive here, just like the mighty lion rules the animal kingdom. But here's the thing, Arthur isn't just any lion. Back in the present, he's seen enough. The bully, Lord Hugh, sneers, asking why Arthur didn't even flinch when the boy was struck down. He mocks the new kid, explaining that the previous servant used to fetch their finest daily rations. Young Hugo offers to go, but Arthur questions why they even need him in the first place. The boy apologizes in terror, while the bullies laugh at the thought of organizing their servants' shifts. Another thug joins the mockery, as Hugh gives Arthur a deadly look, telling him to just obey. Big mistake. Arthur stands, walks right up to the brute, and calmly demands his gold. Hugh is stunned. He grabs Arthur's head, convinced the new transfer has completely lost his mind. Staring him down, Arthur tells the lordling to use his own damn coin for his own bread. Hugh jokes, is Arthur too poor, or did his noble parents forget to give him an allowance? That was it. Arthur tells him to shut up and let go. The fight has officially started. Boom! A brutal punch to the ribs sends the bully reeling, gasping for air in pure agony. Then, crack. A direct strike to the face leaves Hugh stunned while the other students watch in shock. Standing over him, Arthur realizes the truth. Here, the only rules that matter are the strongest fists. One more punch to the face to finish it. Hugh hits the floor, spitting blood and saliva. Lady Alara watches in horror, while the other students desperately try to hold back their laughter. The second bully stands, terrified. Arthur doesn't wait. He beckons the coward to come forward and fight. Shaking, the coward refuses, begging Arthur to come to him instead. A truly pathetic display. Fine by me, Arthur growls, walking over while the bully prepares for the absolute worst. The thug throws a kick dodge. A punch missed again. Arthur is moving like a total shadow. Then, wham! A gut-wrenching blow to the stomach sends the bully to his knees, sobbing in pain. Stay still, Arthur commands. The bully, realizing he might actually die, is paralyzed by pure fear. Suddenly, a curse echoes behind them. Hugh is back up, fuming and clutching his stolen coin purse. He screams death threats, but Arthur, he just laughs. Another punch to the face silences him. Quiet, Arthur mutters. Moments later, the room is dead silent, save for the bully's groans. Hugh is out cold. Arthur grabs the other thug by the hair, dragging him up. He asks if the academy bread is really that delicious, ordering the coward to go fetch some. With a swollen face, the bully spits that Arthur hasn't won yet, mentioning the room's true king. Apparently, these two weren't even the top of the food chain in this chaotic classroom. Enter Lord Miles, the class sovereign. Hugh looks relieved. The real power has finally arrived. Miles looks Arthur over, asking if he's really trying to take over the class on day one. Arthur doesn't blink. You the boss here? He asks as Miles approaches, eyeing his fallen men. The sovereign wonders why a newcomer would stir up such a storm so quickly after arriving. The bullies wonder if Miles can handle him, while Alara checks if they're even still alive. Students back away, sensing the danger. Miles calmly claims he isn't here to fight at all. Arthur isn't buying it. He watches Miles like a hawk, suspicious of that peaceful tone. He notices Miles' stance, legs set, shoulders tense, ready to strike with lethal, subtle precision. This guy is a pro dangerous. Meanwhile, a bully demands snacks from a student to watch. He threatens the poor kid for food, completely ignoring the tension between the two titans. Hugh leaves to find meat for lunch, noticing that the fear in the room has shifted. Miles remains calm, suggesting it's finally time for a proper and polite introduction. The brute steps forward and introduces himself as Alistair. He demands to know our hero's name. Arthur just stares back, cold as ice, before finally giving his name. Alistair lunges. He feints a strike toward Arthur's face to distract him, while secretly winding up a nasty kick aimed right at his vitals. He's aiming for a low blow, straight between the legs. Arthur realizes in an instant that this guy is fighting dirty, a total lack of honor. It is a strike meant to cause agonizing, unbearable pain. The kind of move that would get a man banished from any knightly order. Arthur breaks into a nervous sweat. Thinking fast, Arthur covers his vulnerable area. Alastair notices the defensive move and instantly switches his momentum into a crushing fist instead. "A bluff!" he roars. He charges in with a full-force punch, putting his entire weight behind it. The strike slams into Arthur's face with a silent, brutal impact that's bound to leave a scar. The watching squires erupt in cheers. They're convinced the new ward doesn't stand a chance. "No way the new kid survives that," they jeer. Arthur realizes the brute bluffed and attacked simultaneously. He doesn't back down. Instead, he snaps a heavy kick directly into Alastair's shin. Hard. Alastair's eyes widen in shock as the pain hits. Before he can recover, Arthur grabs him by the collar and hurls him across the room with terrifying strength. Boom, Alastair hits the stone wall and slumps to the floor. Arthur stands over him, delivering a simple lesson. Don't go around threatening others like that. The brute actually laughs as he staggers to his feet. He claims that if he's the one taking the hits, then it's not a problem. He's totally unhinged. One of the bullies gasps, calling Alastair the most dishonorable fighter in the academy. But Hugo stops him, mentioning that Alastair is on his last strike. If he cheats like this 3 more times, he'll be expelled from the duelist order forever. Alastair clenches his fists, his face twisting with pure rage. He declares that he's going to use proper duelist arts now. No more games, this is serious. Arthur remains perfectly calm, telling him to just back off. Alastair ignores him. He scans the room, grabs a heavy wooden chair, and hurls it straight at our hero's head without a second thought. Arthur dodges it with lightning reflexes. As Alastair charges in, Arthur slips past a right-handed punch like it's nothing, moving with total grace. Alastair swings again and misses again. Arthur is moving like a ghost. Irritated and panting, the brute screams at him to stop dodging and fight like a man. Suddenly, Alastair stops. He notices someone in the shadows and tells his lackeys to stay back. "This opponent, he belongs to me," he growls. Arthur is confused. Was there someone else watching? Everyone turns toward a student with glasses sitting quietly. The boy looks up, surprised. "Are you talking about me?" the student asks. But Alastair is already back on Arthur, looking absolutely furious as he prepares another massive strike. Arthur blocks the punch with his wrist. He looks Alastair dead in the eye. "You're a funny guy," he says. "Are you done playing around yet?" "Not even close," Alastair snaps back, trying a lethal 2-fingered strike at Arthur's throat. Arthur just tilts his head, dodging the blow with ease. Arthur decides it's time to end this. He lands a devastating punch straight to the brute's jaw. Lights out. Alastair is knocked unconscious instantly. Spit flies as Alastair collapses face first onto the cold floor. Arthur just sighs, asking who this guy even was. He's completely lost interest in the fight. The bullies are in total shock. They can't believe what just happened. The rest of the students are frozen, staring at Arthur in pure disbelief. Arthur gives Alastair a little nudge with his boot. "Get up!" He tells the lackeys to take him to the healer's wing. "And remember, you work for me now." Terrified, the 2 bullies quickly agree, knowing they're in deep trouble. Meanwhile, up in the Chancellor's office, Lady Alina is watching from the window. She thinks Arthur doesn't look like a typical recruit at all, but she has a long council meeting to attend to first. Duty calls, unfortunately. She checks her crystal comms, smiling to herself. She's genuinely excited to see what he'll do next. Walking down the hallway, she's already planning. It might be time for phase 2 of the plan. A palace scout watches her pass, recognizing her as the director of the Royal Foundation's planning division. Her classmate, Gwendolyn, arrives and tells her to get to the lecture hall. But Gwendolyn is still wondering why such a high-ranking director is at the academy. Back in the hall, Arthur is lecturing the bullies. "This academy is for learning," he says firmly. "It's time to stop this pathetic bullying nonsense right now." The 3 of them hang their heads. Cedric, the blonde one, stammers that they aren't actually bullies, while Hugo tells him to shut up because everyone's watching. Arthur isn't having it. With a menacing look, he leans in close to Cedric. The tension in the room is thick enough to cut with a blade. He gives Cedric a choice. "You can either be my friend or you can be my nightmare." Cedric doesn't hesitate. Friends, we should definitely be friends. Arthur then glares at Hugo, calling him pastry boy. He tells him to stop eating those scones immediately. Hugo is confused. But why? Irritated, Arthur just repeats the order without explaining. Hugo bows his head and obeys. Arthur then turns his attention to the rest of the students. He makes it clear, if anyone in this room bothers another student or starts trouble, they have to answer to him. He's the new law here. With a mischievous grin, Arthur promises he'll straighten out anyone who steps out of line. One student watches him, caught between fear and admiration. They wonder if the academy might actually become a better place now. He's scary, sure, but he seems kind in his own weird way. Sometime later, in a room on the first floor, a student is watching a recording of the fight. Now this, he mumbles, is real entertainment. He shows the footage to a friend, asking what he thinks of the new guy. The friend just shrugs. He got lucky. I don't see any real skill. The student points out that Alistair only took up dueling after being beaten by this other guy. Then, a student named Sebastian stands up, looking annoyed. Sebastian is fuming. He can't believe Alistair, the leader of that crew, got taken down so easily. What's wrong with that idiot? He growls. Alistair finally stands, his irritation peaking as he asks Julian what his problem is, reminding him he only led this band of knights through treachery and games. This noble-born thug heads straight for the training grounds and demands to know where his punching bag is hiding. Turns out, his target is just another student named Finn, who's forced to reveal himself instantly. The bully, Alaric, smirks and says it's Finn's lucky day for a beating, before driving a brutal fist straight into the poor kid's stomach. The impact is sickening, Finn's gasping for air, saliva flying everywhere from the sheer agony of the blow. Alaric, the self-proclaimed class leader, is already counting his hits. He's planning on delivering 800 today. He coldly warns Finn that he shouldn't have eaten breakfast if he wanted to keep it down. This guy is pure ego, already demanding his lackeys find more punching bags because he needs a warm-up before hunting down the new transfer. Meanwhile, back at the Sterling Academy, our main man Arthur is reflecting on his second chance. He's realizing that being back in these halls is way better than training in isolation. This is his shot to fix every mistake from his past life. As the bell rings, Arthur turns to a quiet student named Milo, asking if he can borrow his notes. Milo's a good soul. He agrees immediately, offering up everything he's written down. But of course, the peace doesn't last. A loudmouth named Cedric starts stretching and whining about being hungry, complaining that he doesn't have a servant to fetch his meals anymore. Arthur shoots him a look that could kill, and suddenly the bullies are sweating. Cedric tries to act tough, even using another student as a human horse to ride around, but he's clearly rattled by Arthur's presence. He's genuinely wondering how he's supposed to survive the academy without a lackey to do his bidding, convinced the new kid shouldn't even be able to fight back. A group gathers around a defeated fighter named Marcus, telling him he looks like trash and needs to leave. A girl named Alina steps in, calling the whole lot of them pathetic for kicking a man while he's down. She walks right up to Arthur, her eyes sparkling, and tells him his fighting style is legendary. Then, she invites him to come learn close-quarters combat with her. The other boys are losing their minds. Alina is actually flirting. They all remember when Cedric tried to talk to her, and she basically sent him to the shadow realm with her insults. Arthur, being the focused guy he is, just asks if there's a training hall nearby. Alina is thrilled, offering to find the perfect spot just for him if he's interested. But then things get awkward. Arthur is looking left, then right, completely ignoring her while she stands there wondering what's wrong with him. Turns out he was just trying to see the chalkboard. Alina realizes he's more interested in the lesson than her, and she starts wondering if she's just an annoying interruption. Arthur scratches his head, admitting he didn't hear a single word she said. Talk about a stone-cold move. Looking incredibly disappointed, Alina tells him to just keep studying and become someone great. She turns to the other losers and tells them they're useless compared to him. Marcus, the former leader, realizes the hierarchy has shifted. By taking him down, Arthur is now the target for 𝒊𝒏𝒈 from the second house and Julian from the third. Even though Marcus beat them before, Elena points out he only won because he fought like a coward, not because of actual skill. Marcus knows if those two crush Arthur, their whole class ranking is forfeit. Cedric is already panicking. He knows those two are absolute monsters. Right on cue, the doors swing open. It's 𝒊𝒏𝒈, the leader of Class 2, and he's looking for blood. He mocks Marcus, asking if he's okay or if the beating he took finally broke his spirit. Elena and the others are stunned, talk about perfect timing for a rival to show up. One of the lackeys wants to swing on 𝒊𝒏𝒈, but 𝒊𝒏𝒈 just keeps poking the bear, asking Marcus if he got knocked out cold or just fell asleep mid-fight. Cedric snaps, but Marcus tells him to back off. Marcus stands his ground, asking if 𝒊𝒏𝒈 came here to pick a fight he can't win. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 just laughs it off, claiming Marcus only won their last duel because he fought dirty. It's getting heated and fast. Marcus tells him to shut his mouth before he lays hands on him, but before the sparks can fly, a voice cuts through the room like a blade. "Shut up!" Everyone freezes. It's Arthur. He's trying to study and he's officially had enough of the noise. Marcus actually listens and heads back to his desk, but 𝒊𝒏𝒈 is confused. He looks at this new kid and can't help but laugh. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 tells Marcus he's as good as dead anyway, and Cedric, surprisingly, says he'd rather deal with Arthur's intensity than 𝒊𝒏𝒈's smug face. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 and his crony approach Arthur's desk, full of curiosity. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 can't believe this nerd with glasses is the guy everyone's talking about. His sidekick jokes that Arthur looks more like a bookworm than a fighter. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 gets right in Arthur's face, demanding he repeat what he just said. Arthur doesn't even blink. He just sits there, analyzing the situation with a cold, calculated stare. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 is losing his patience, mocking Arthur for acting deaf now that things are getting real. He thinks the kid is paralyzed with fear. He moves his hand toward Arthur's desk, talking down to him like he's a child. When someone's talking to you, you listen. But then, pure reflex, Arthur's hand moves like a blur, grabbing 𝒊𝒏𝒈's wrist in a literal iron grip. 𝒊𝒏𝒈's face goes pale. He's suddenly begging him to let go. The room goes cold as they realize the new student is the one shouting. Cedric mocks Alistair, laughing that he won't even bother with a man who's already as good as dead. Annoyed, Arthur grumbles that he'd rather break the new kid than deal with the rest of them. Julian agrees, marching straight toward Alistair's desk. Cedric and his shadow are baffled. Confused, Cedric asks if this is truly the new transfer student they've heard so much about. His partner confirms it, though he notes the boy looks far different from the images they saw before. Cedric looms over our protagonist. "What are you, some kind of bandit?" Cedric sneers, while his lackey jokes that he just looks like a pathetic scholar in those spectacles. Cedric gets right in Alistair's face, demanding he repeat his earlier outburst. With a cold, serious gaze, Alistair silently analyzes the threat. Beyond irritated, Cedric growls for him to speak up, mocking him for complaining about the noise earlier while acting deaf now. He scoffs to his partner that the boy is paralyzed with fear, wondering where all that supposed toughness went. Cedric reaches for the desk, snapping that when a superior speaks, a peasant needs to listen. Pure instinct, Alistair catches Cedric's hand in a crushing grip. Suddenly, the bully is the one trembling, desperately begging him to calm down. Cedric screams in agony, begging for mercy as the other students, absolutely terrified, just watch the brutal scene unfold, all while Arthur keeps a crushing grip on the boy's wrist. Without even looking up from his work, Arthur tells him he needs to finish his tactical scrolls first. He calmly suggests Cedric come back later if he actually wants to keep his hand. Shaking and sweating, Cedric stammers that he understands perfectly. Arthur finally releases the pressure and tells the brat to get lost before he changes his mind. Cedric stumbles back to his guard, telling him they need to leave immediately. He repeats it again, desperate to get as much distance from Arthur as possible. But then Cedric snaps. He spins around, lunging at Arthur with a desperate punch, screaming that he doesn't give a damn about some stupid scrolls. Arthur moves like lightning. He catches the house 𝒊𝒈𝒈 by the arm and counters instantly, delivering a devastating palm strike directly to the center of Cedric's face. Lights out. Cedric is unconscious before he even hits the stone floor, while his partner frantically checks his pulse and realizes the kid is somehow still breathing. Arthur looks down coldly, asking if that clown was really the leader of the 2nd Garrison. Apparently, he was planning on hunting the guy down soon anyway. With a terrifying, sinister gaze, Arthur tells them to haul him away. He warns them that if they ever cross his path again, it'll be the last thing they ever do. As the guards scramble to carry their leader out, the rest of the academy students are left in total shock, staring at Arthur like he's some kind of monster. Arthur just sighs, thinking how convenient it was to take out the head of the 2nd house by total accident while trying to study. The rest of the clique is reeling from the violence. A terrified Hugh stammers that it's probably better to just forget about revenge and forgive the new guy. Julian, the blonde noble, scoffs at the suggestion. He says that at this rate, they'll all end up as nothing but pathetic scholars who actually spend their time studying. Right at that moment, 𝒊𝒏𝒈 from the 3rd house storms in calling for Merrick. It seems the rumors of the morning's chaos have already reached his ears. Hugh panics, asking if the entire 3rd Garrison is lined up outside, while Merrick tries to stand. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 just tells him to stay put and keep his mouth shut. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 barks that he isn't there for him. Hugh tries to ask why they're barging in if they aren't looking for a war, but he's clearly shaking. Julian tells Hugh to relax and stay back. Meanwhile, the thugs from the 3rd house move in, surrounding the desks where Arthur and his companion are sitting. Arthur realizes his piece is gone and puts his scrolls away for later. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 grabs Arthur's friend by the hair and forces him out of his seat. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 drops into the chair, mockingly asking Arthur if he's actually trying to be a scholar here. One of his lackeys looks at Arthur and calls him handsome. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 introduces himself as the head of the 3rd Garrison. He asks if Arthur really thinks he's the boss now just because he got lucky against Merrick. Bam! Arthur slams his hand on the desk, visibly irritated. He tells 𝒊𝒏𝒈 to say whatever he wants quickly because he's being way too loud and annoying. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 laughs, calling the kid brave. Arthur just stares him down, asking how it's brave to talk to a complete and utter idiot. He finishes by calling 𝒊𝒏𝒈 pathetic. The air in the room turns icy as 𝒊𝒏𝒈 returns the comment with a look of pure, murderous intent. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 smiles, the scary kind. He tells Arthur he's amusing and promises to settle this after training, telling him he better be ready for what's coming. He warns Arthur that he isn't a weakling like Merrick. With a final glare, 𝒊𝒏𝒈 signals his crew to follow him and they march out of the hall. Arthur is just confused. Why is every student in this place acting like a lunatic on day 1? All he wanted was a normal day to study his scrolls. Alara, analyzing the mess, notes that 𝒊𝒏𝒈 is a beast and Arthur has officially stepped into a nightmare. Julian is shocked she's even concerned. She shrugs, she just hates 𝒊𝒏𝒈 and thinks the new guy is a much better fit for a leader. She asks Julian if he'd really prefer 𝒊𝒏𝒈 running the show. Merrick finally stands up from his desk, his voice cold and steady. "No, I don't." Julian watches him, asking where he's going in such a hurry. Alara asks if he's going to talk to Arthur and if she can tag along. They walk over to the protagonist's desk, the atmosphere still thick with tension. Merrick asks if he can sit down, but Arthur gives a blunt no. Ignoring the rejection, Merrick sits anyway and makes himself comfortable. He tells Arthur that he's nothing like the cowards in the 2nd house. He's a real warrior. Arthur just adjusts his glasses, looking completely bored. Arthur tells him not to sweat the small stuff. Then, Merrick drops a bombshell. He wants to help him. Hugh and Julian are absolutely floored by the offer. Alara is clearly loving the drama, but Arthur remains suspicious. He wonders what kind of scheme this fallen noble is trying to cook up. Merrick keeps it straight. He's going to reveal 𝒊𝒏𝒈's secret strategy. Arthur refuses instantly, saying he doesn't need anyone's help to win. Merrick ignores the refusal and explains that 𝒊𝒏𝒈 has been training in Western boxing since he was a child, but he's never been one for following the rules. Meanwhile, over in the 3rd Garrison's training hall, Silas is demanding his punching bags be brought to him immediately. When he's faced with only 3 terrified students, Silas frowns. He asks why there are only 3 when there are supposed to be 4 of them. One student stammers that the 4th is currently in the hospital. Silas gets irritated, asking if they're actually trying to blame him for that. The student quickly claims the boy just collapsed on his own. Silas smirks with total superiority. It's not his fault if they're too weak for his training. He's training them to be men, sure, but he isn't responsible for them being pathetic. He stretches out and tells the 3 survivors to get into position. "Try harder," he growls. It's time to begin. The 3 students take their fighting stances, but their legs are shaking like leaves in the wind. With a look of pure malice, Silas tells them to come at him. One kid closes his eyes, loses his nerve, and just charges forward with a wild punch. Huge mistake. Silas counters instantly with a brutal uppercut to the chin, sending the student flying backward onto the hard floor. The others are paralyzed with fear at the sight. But one student gathers what's left of his courage and charges anyway, only for Silas to dodge him effortlessly. Thorn delivers a sharp blow to the ribs, followed by a heavy right to the jaw. The squire hits the stone floor trembling, while the last standing student watches in pure horror. "Get over here," Thorn barks. The kid is terrified but charges anyway, only to take a fist to the teeth. Thorn rains down a flurry of strikes, mocking the boy to use his arms and at least try to block. The entire class just watches. One beaten boy glares from the floor, and Thorn notices. "Why are you sitting?" he asks, telling them to get up since he's barely even hitting them yet. With a chillingly calm look, he wonders if they're faking it just to make the beating end faster. 2 students flee in terror, whispering that they need to go check on their friend in the infirmary. Later, at the night academy during the midday meal, Arthur is standing in line with his friend, Marcus. He sits at the long wooden table, staring at his plate and thinking about how long it's been since he ate well. Lately, it was just stale bread and scraps. He remembers his old master being a lot more generous. Noble girls are whispering nearby, already gossiping about how handsome the new squire is. Word is spreading fast. Arthur just arrived today, but everyone already knows his name. At another table, students are talking about how the new guy took down 2 house leaders already. Some wonder if he's trying to become the academy lord, while others are stunned he did it in one go. "Probably luck," one scoffs, but Sir Alaric of the elite squires says they'll find out the truth soon. Back at Arthur's table, a girl from his house approaches and asks why he's eating all by himself. She insists they eat together, leaving Marcus wondering if he's suddenly become invisible to everyone. Soon, the House 1 students are all gathered, chatting away while the rest of the hall watches. Other tables are eyeing them, wondering if Arthur has already joined Julian's faction. Duke Quentin of the Arts Guild asks if he's still better looking than the new guy. His friend lies to his face. Arthur is focused on his meal when Julian warns him to eat up. Thorn won't be an easy target. Arthur is suspicious. Julian claimed he could beat Thorn, so why is he trying to help? Julian admits their rivalry is far from over, his mind flashing back to their most brutal duel. Julian was beaten and bloody. Thorn was mocking him, promising to keep going until the floor was red. Julian swung a desperate left hook, missed. Thorn dodged it easily and countered with a heavy blow. Thorn punched him square in the face. Julian tried a right hook next, but Thorn slipped it effortlessly. Thorn countered with a left to the ribs. In desperation, Julian pinned him to the wall. He used a forbidden, dirty move, aiming right for Thorn's weakest spot. Arthur is stunned. "You really did that." The memory shows Thorn doubling over, unable to bear the pain. Julian recalls that even though Thorn yielded, no one at the academy ever respected that win. Arthur wonders if anyone would ever accept a move like that, while Julian explains Thorn's true skill. Thorn is a master of both defense and offense. He doesn't hit hard, but his precision is perfect. He's avoided Julian ever since, and Arthur realizes it's because of that mysterious, low blow. Julian is dead serious. The third-year captain is going to crush Arthur if he isn't ready. Arthur notices two squires whispering in the distance and wonders who they're reporting to. One asks if the other is worried about the new kid, but he's sure Thorn will win anyway. Suddenly, a piece of food lands right on Arthur's plate. Someone's looking for a fight. The boy gives a fake apology. Arthur is visibly annoyed, and the girl asks if the bully is insane. The bully just laughs and tells her she can eat it if she wants before walking away. Arthur grabs the guy's arm, his eyes cold. "Where do you think you're going?" He's furious, not because of the insult, but because the guy called the dish fried eel when it's clearly spiced perch. A girl in spectacles watches the tension rise, certain a brawl is about to shatter the peace. Her friend assumes Arthur must be just another thug, but she can't stop staring at his face. The whole hall is waiting to see what happens. Arthur growls, "Where's the perch?" And the bully starts shaking. "Nothing, look, the new guy needs to apologize," the boy sneers. Arthur doesn't flinch. He just squeezes the noble's arm even tighter. "Do I really need to?" he asks, the threat clear in his eyes. The bully whimpers in sheer pain and terror. Finally, Arthur lets out a cold breath, looking him dead in the eye. "I'm the only one who decides who says sorry in this house." Suddenly, a chime rings out. A notification. Arthur looks down, but before he reads the message, he locks eyes with the trembling bully. "Don't move." It's a direct missive from Lady 𝒊𝒏𝒈, the High Overseer of Operations. She wants to speak with him immediately. Arthur's stomach drops. Nervous? Yeah, you could say that. He remembers his secret pact with 𝒊𝒏𝒈 like it was yesterday, the meeting that changed everything. She promised him a way out of the gutter, a full royal scholarship and enough gold to live on. But it came with one heavy condition. Total secrecy. That's the rule. If Arthur's cover is blown, the entire project is dead. He has to stay invisible, but his current behavior is doing the exact opposite. One slip-up, one person finding out who he really is, and he's finished. He'd be dragged right back to the slums he fought so hard to leave behind. He stares at the bully, gears turning. What should he do with this trash? Meanwhile, the bully whispers to his friend that they need to vanish. They try to bolt, but Arthur catches every single move while he calmly finishes his meal. Nothing escapes him. Hugh, a former brawler himself, scoffs at the scene. "Those two aren't the problem, Arthur. It's the monster they serve, Cedric, the strongest knight in this entire academy." Hugh asks why Miles is staring so hard, but Miles just brushes it off. Arthur, though, he's trapped in his own head. He can't get dragged into some petty school feud. He needs this project to succeed to reach his dreams. Failure isn't an option. But then it hits him. He's already done way too much for a first day. He's standing out like a sore thumb in a room full of sharks. Other students whisper, "The new kid doesn't just fight for no reason, unlike what the rumors said." Arthur just stands up. "I'm done here." Miles tries to offer a strategy to handle Cedric, but Arthur doesn't even look back. "I don't need it." The blonde boy watches him leave. "He's changed," he mutters. Miles agrees. The guy is completely unpredictable now. Walking out, Arthur realizes the spotlight is already on him. He wonders what Lady 𝒊𝒏𝒈 will think when she hears about this cafeteria mess. Lost in thought, he spots the same bully from earlier. The kid tries to pull a fast one and double back to avoid him. Not a chance. Arthur grabs him by the scruff of his neck like a stray cat. The bully gasps, "You're making a huge mistake, commoner." "You don't know the rules here," the boy screams. "Apparently this academy has traditions, brutal ones. You don't mess with students from other houses unless you defeat Cedric first. It's a blood-soaked hierarchy passed down through generations. Break it, and you've got a target on your back for life." Just then, two more students approach. "Let's talk somewhere private," Arthur says. The bully refuses, so Arthur leans in close. "Or we can settle this right here, your choice." The bully pales and follows him into a deserted wing of the school. Then, one heavy strike directly to the gut. The bully collapses, spitting and gasping for air as he hits the floor in agony. "You'll regret this," he wheezes. Arthur just ignores him. "Call your leader," Arthur demands. He knows the rules. If he beats the boss, the lackeys have no choice but to fall in line. The bully confirms that's how it works, but he has a twisted grin on his face. You can't see him now, the kid spits. Cedric is busy. He's using his punching bags in the training hall. Arthur's eyes go cold. Punching bags? The bully confirms they're just weak students and asks if Arthur has ever tried it. Arthur's face is a mask of fury. I'm not letting this slide. He marches toward the third training hall. He knows exactly what he has to do. He peeks inside just as a student is hurled, literally thrown, against the heavy oak door. Who's there? Cedric bellows from the center of the room. One of his lackeys goes to check, but Arthur kicks the door open before he can reach it. Move, Arthur says, ice in his voice. Cedric just grins. I told you I'd see you after class, didn't I, new guy? Arthur scans the room. It's pathetic. Cedric only picks on the smallest, most vulnerable people to be his victims. Cedric asks what the hell Arthur thinks he's doing, then orders the broken kids on the floor to crawl out. One of them is too terrified to even breathe. Cedric grabs the trembling boy by the throat. You going to be a problem for me? He mocks, claiming the kid is just faking his pain. The bruised boy can only whisper, I fell on the way home. It was my own fault. He's completely broken. Cedric laughs. Weaklings, all of them. Arthur feels his blood begin to boil. He looks around at the silent students watching. He knows that silence. He knows exactly why they don't do anything. He remembers his own past, the bruises, the endless beatings, and how the adults just looked the other way while he suffered. There was no hope back then. Not until a boy named 𝒊𝒏𝒈 appeared, someone stronger than any bully Arthur had ever faced. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 made it clear. Anyone who touched Arthur was a dead man. It was the first time he felt safe. At that moment, Arthur realized the only truth that matters in a world like this. It became his greatest certainty. To stop a monster, you need a bigger monster. To stop a bully, you need to be the strongest one in the room. And today, that's going to be Arthur. Listen up, because everyone needs to hear this. He's determined to become the ultimate king of the academy, ruling over every other noble with an iron fist. Motivated by this, Arthur tells Marcus to drop the act. Stop pretending you're some legend, he says, since you only pick on those who can't fight back. He tells him he should try someone stronger for once. Cedric sneers, asking if this new kid is supposed to be that challenge. Arthur just looks at him. Can I use your friend here as a practice dummy? Arthur asks. Marcus loses his mind instantly. What did you just say to me, you peasant? Arthur doesn't even flinch. He calmly claims that Marcus would actually make a perfect punching bag because he's heavy and honestly. He just looks like he'd be fun to hit. Marcus charges in a blind rage, but Arthur casually blocks the strike with his left hand. He snatches the bully with his right, feinting a brutal blow to the collarbone. It's a total bluff, though, and Marcus falls for it hook, line, and sinker. Then, bam, a vicious right uppercut sends Marcus crashing to the stone floor, out cold. The other squires are absolutely stunned by the scene. Arthur just stands there, hands in his pockets. Yeah, definitely fun to hit. He turns his gaze to Cedric and asks him what he wants. Cedric is fuming. Arthur just leans in, asking how many hits he thinks he can handle. At that moment, Cedric is actually impressed. He's looking at the weapon Rax Marcus just demolished. One punch did that, considering the sheer size and weight of the guy. It means this new kid is no amateur. Cedric sneers. Is trash talk the only thing you're good at? Before ordering the others to clear the floor. He commands them to push the heavy tables back. As they move, Arthur starts reading the situation, analyzing every single move Cedric makes. He realizes why Cedric wants the space. The guy is a trained brawler. He needs every inch of this room to use his reach for the fight. Meanwhile, near the refectory, that bully from before is groaning in pain. His friend hoists him up, telling him they have to move to Hall 3. Get moving, he says. Cedric and the new kid are about to go at it. Hearing this, a crowd of students starts heading that way too. Back in the dining hall, Henry is complaining about how small the sweet pastries are getting these days. His blonde friend just laughs at him. Maybe you're just getting bigger, mate. Suddenly, someone bursts in shouting that the showdown is happening right now in Hall 3. They don't waste a second. Arriving at the hall, the three nobles from Class 1 are confused. They thought this was supposed to be later. Wasn't the duel set for after sunset? Realizing it's starting now, they joke that they should have brought some snacks to watch the show. Arthur is sizing him up. Even though Cedric took down Leo earlier, something felt off. His technique didn't look that polished in the footage. At least not in the video Arthur saw. But Cedric is warming up now, eyes locking in. Then, he explodes forward with incredible speed. He's fast, scary fast. A left hook comes flying toward Arthur's head, but he slips it with perfect reflexes. Cedric doesn't stop there, though. He pivots instantly, launching a right cross. Arthur dodges again, thinking to himself that this guy moves faster than a professional duelist. Every time Arthur tries to get inside, Cedric dances away. He's relentless, staying right on Arthur's heels, stalking him across the training floor. He keeps the pressure on to stay close. Another heavy right comes whistling in, but Arthur ducks under it, spotting a clear opening. But Cedric is sharp. He reads the countercross coming and leaps back instantly to avoid it. He knows the kid found the gap. Nice try, Cedric thinks, confident it won't happen again. Arthur, though, realizes the truth. This guy can read his every shoulder movement. This isn't just some thug. He's got natural instincts, systematic training, and incredible footwork. Not to mention, he's lightning quick. Cedric blurs forward again, unleashing a barrage of strikes, but Arthur is weaving through every single one of them like a ghost. Watching from the side, Leo remembers that suffocating feeling. Those punches are like a cage. There's just no room to breathe or counter. He's wondering what Arthur can possibly do. Then, boom, Arthur finds the one tiny flaw. Cedric's eyes go wide. He can't move in time. A heavy right cross connects. Cedric manages to get his upper arm up to block, but the sheer force of the impact sends him reeling back. Cedric is stunned. What kind of monster is this? He thinks. Even through a block, his arm is screaming from the damage he took. Henry and his friend can't believe the counterattack. Arthur, though, is analyzing. Cedric's speed is supernatural and his reaction time just as fast. He thinks fast, too, but Cedric's got a smirk on his face now. He thinks he's finally measured Arthur's reach from that last exchange. He's got a plan. Feint high, then bury a cross in Arthur's chest. He's betting Arthur will step back to try and punch first. That's the trap, but Arthur notices the shift. Suddenly, Cedric gains massive momentum and rushes forward at absolute full speed. Arthur braces himself. Cedric is certain he's won, dodging what he thinks is Arthur's first punch with perfect timing. He's grinning, his read was right, or so he thinks. At that exact moment, Arthur isn't punching at all. He's low, launching a brutal kick. Crack, it hits Cedric's lower thigh. He's in shock, a kick. He stumbles, losing all control as he desperately tries to throw a left. Arthur slips it like it's nothing. He's already looking for the next spot. He doesn't let up. Another powerful kick lands on the same leg. The students are whispering now. Cedric was so obsessed with his boxing that he completely forgot his legs were wide open for the taking. His movement is totally shot. Arthur stands over him, looking down with cold eyes. "Get up," he tells him. Cedric struggles to his feet, livid. He's swearing, telling Arthur he should have some manners. Arthur, he doesn't care. He just kicks that same spot again. Hard. Alistair stares him down, telling him to hurry up and stand. The noble students are in absolute shock, and Miles mutters that Alistair should have ended this already. With a cold, piercing gaze, our hero asks if Silas's leg is hurting. "If it is," Alistair scoffs, "you should just lie down." Trembling with pure rage, the bully snarls back, telling Alistair not to act like this fight is already over. But Alistair just prepares for another strike. "Thanks for the compliment," he says, as Silas braces for the worst. Silas guards his leg, the same spot already battered by 3 consecutive hits. But Alistair, he plants his foot firmly on the stone floor. It was a feint. A brutal right hook flashes out instead of a kick, and Silas barely manages to get his arm up in time. He sees another punch coming, but Alistair stops midair. Another fake. He sweeps 𝒊𝒏𝒈's feet out from under him, leaving everyone breathless. The entire class is stunned. They realize it. That's Miles's elite combat technique. Students whisper in awe. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 took 4 brutal hits to the same leg. There's no way he's walking away from that. High above, a hidden lens records the entire duel, projecting the violence into a private chamber. A mysterious man watches the screen, leaning back. These kids, they actually know how to brawl. He's impressed. Alistair stands over him. What are you doing? Get up and face me. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 is fuming, clutching his ruined leg in agony. He's desperate, analyzing his next move, but deep down, he knows that leg is finished. He can't fight like this. The crowd is silent, watching the mighty 𝒊𝒏𝒈 suffer such a humiliating defeat. It's hard to watch. Get up, you're supposed to be a champion pugilist, one student shouts. Others wonder if he can even stand. Under those trousers, his leg is a complete mess. In a fight, your feet are everything, even more than your fists. Fighters use their feet to control the distance, dancing around blows to land their own. Without footwork, you're a sitting duck. Think of it like this. If the punch is the bolt, the legs are the crossbow. You need the weapon to fire the projectile. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 had a master-crafted crossbow, but without his legs to brace it, he's got nothing left to fire. His leg is shaking, the pain is blinding, but 𝒊𝒏𝒈 isn't done. He forces himself to stand. It's not over yet. Alistair just stares. You really want to keep getting beaten. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 lunges forward with a desperate, heavy strike. Alistair catches the blow right in his torso. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 puts everything into it, but the force just sends Alistair sliding back. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 is losing it. Even when he blocks, the pain is excruciating, and his legs, they won't let him dodge. Then comes another kick. Alistair lands it perfectly, and 𝒊𝒏𝒈 can only block and pray as the agony spikes again. The students can see the writing on the wall. It's only a matter of time before Alistair shatters his defense completely. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 keeps backing up until thud. His back hits the cold stone wall. He's trapped. Alistair closes in. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 knows he has to move, has to get away from the wall, but his body won't listen. He barely misses a punch to the head and tries to counter, but Alistair is too fast. A direct hit lands right in 𝒊𝒏𝒈's ribs. All the air leaves his lungs. Alistair follows up instantly, a left punch, then a right, both crashing into 𝒊𝒏𝒈's guard. The bully is in a world of hurt. Miles watches, noting that 𝒊𝒏𝒈 is cornered and completely helpless now. It's just one punch after another. He only has 2 choices left, try to defend or just take the beating. Is this a massacre? The blonde boy asks. Henry just nods. He looks like a literal punching bag. Flashback time. We see 𝒊𝒏𝒈 at the training hall, a prodigy in the ring. Everyone expected him to go pro. But 𝒊𝒏𝒈 didn't care about leagues or trophies. His coach tried to guide him, but the boy had other plans. A friend arrives to pick him up, and 𝒊𝒏𝒈 leaves the hall with a smirk on his face. He shows off a new tattoo he wants, ignoring the coach's concerned look. The old man had a bad feeling. Do you actually enjoy hurting people, 𝒊𝒏𝒈? Keep your fights in the ring. That's the golden rule. Fast forward. Classroom. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 is absolutely destroying a weaker student, punching him in the face with zero mercy. That terrifying look in his eyes, he loved it. Way better than a leather bag, he sneers. Next. A line of terrified students forms, all of them destined to be his personal punching bags. His friend laughs, pointing out a student who can take a hit, so 𝒊𝒏𝒈 doesn't have to hold back. It's sick. Back to the present. Poetic justice hits hard. Alistair is pummeling 𝒊𝒏𝒈 while his friend watches in horror. Punch after punch, the bully has become the bag. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 is literally spitting blood from the sheer force. His friend can't believe his eyes. 𝒊𝒏𝒈, the king of the academy, is being treated like a piece of equipment. Alistair finishes the combo. A sharp left punch, followed by a kick that could break a mountain. Julian stands over the broken noble. Like a battered training dummy, 𝒊𝒏𝒈's sterling just hangs there, absorbing every blow. One final bone-crushing right hook. Boom! The heavy chains of the post snap, crashing to the stones. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 is done, Finished. The bully hits the dirt like a heap of scrap metal, unconscious, totally wrecked, completely exhausted. Knowing he's got zero chance and he'll never win, Silas watches as Julian walks toward him. Slow, deliberate. That look in Julian's eyes, pure terror. 10 seconds, he cold snaps. Get back up and be my dummy. Silas is absolutely shaking. Inside the Sector 3 arena, Silas is gasping, mind reeling. How did this happen? Julian just stares him down, ice cold. The fallen knight looks away, drowning in shame. The other students, jaws on the floor, their king just got dismantled. The rest of Silas's gang, the ones Julian already flattened, can't even find the words. Speechless. Felix, Silas's right hand, finally gets it. He remembers Silas avoiding the knight's tournament, claiming it was annoying. The truth, Silas was just a coward. He never went after Miles because he knew he couldn't actually win. That's why he's obsessed with turning weaker students into his training dummies. He needs to feel in control. Silas wants to play the big man outside the castle walls, but deep down, he's terrified of getting hurt. Felix steps in. That's enough, he says. We yield, we admit defeat. Julian stops the duel. He looks at Silas. I want to hear it from your mouth. Silas is biting his lip until it bleeds. I lost. The entire academy is in shock. The tyrant who oppressed everyone has been humiliated. Julian turns his back, throwing one last insult. You aren't even worth being my training dummy, let alone a knight. The crowd erupts. The new kid, he's actually a powerhouse. Students whisper, is the reign of terror over? Or is Julian just a new shadow over the school? No one knows for sure. Hugh is frozen in shock, and Miles. He's wondering just how much strength Julian is really hiding. Over in the high-tier house, the leaders watch. He's strong, one admits, but we need to see his true abilities. Julian leaves the training grounds, but a random student stops him in his tracks. The kid asks if Julian was scared of Silas. Then, a roar of frustration echoes. The student pales. Heading to the entrance, he realizes Silas actually lost. Right then, the new kid asks if he has anything else to say. The student stammers, no, and bolts, bumping into someone at the door. It's Miles. He and his crew tell the kid to move aside. The student quickly complies. He thinks Miles is just piggybacking on the new kid's strength. The student goes to Silas, still lying in the dirt, and asks about the infirmary. Silas just glares. That look, pure murderous hatred. The student gets the hint and tells everyone to clear the room, fast. Vibrating with rage, Silas growls that this is nowhere near over. Not like this. Later in the High Council chamber, the fight plays on a crystal projector. Julian is focused, an advisor notes. Lady Alina is there. Lord Harrington tells her her ideas touched his heart, making this project possible. He mentions the rules are old and need to go. Alina snaps. Without those rules, things will spiral out of control. Lord Harrington asks why she's been so loud lately. Alina goes silent. He tells her not to worry. They can place Julian anywhere. After all, what can a man with nothing really do? He makes an analogy. Julian is just a cat chasing mice that are hard to catch. But remember, Harrington smiles, we own the cat. Back at the academy, the news of the defeat spreads. In House 4, Baronet Percy slams his desk. He's celebrating by extorting money from another student. His friend asks what he'll do, but Percy doesn't care. In House 9, Sebastian adjusts his spectacles. The brilliant leader of the scholars is watching. Over in House 6, we see Isaac, the 5th house leader. He can't believe Miles is eating with Julian. He claims he could remove Julian whenever he wants, but he's clearly plotting something. Isaac tells a student he'll be eating in House 6 today. He feels the new kid is a different breed. They need a plan. Then the self-proclaimed queen, Beatrice, speaks up. She's tired of boys playing king. She warns them, if they get caught, she's snitching to her older brother. Isaac just sighs. You can't bring a third-year lord to fight a first-year. Either way, they need to think. Outside the Royal Academy walls, Arthur turns to Caleb and the young knight behind him. Why the hell are you lot still following me? He demands. Caleb just grins, declaring they're sworn brothers now. Then, Lionel drops a truth bomb. The great lords have been keeping their distance, but that peace, it's about to shatter. The storm is coming. Even if Arthur wants to stay out of the mud, he'd better sharpen his sword, because this won't be a clean fight. Worry about the war later, Caleb interrupts. Right now, we celebrate at the Gilded Inn. I finally hit silver badge status in the sparring pits. He's beaming with pride over his new rank, practically begging Arthur to join them for a celebratory ale at the local tavern. But Arthur's eyes are locked on a sleek royal coach. Sorry, lads, he says. I've got a private audience. Besides, I don't associate with squires. Caleb yells after him about getting revenge for the insult, but Arthur doesn't look back. He's got bigger problems than tavern brawls. Across the cobblestones, Lady Isabella is heading home. Her friend notices she's pale as a ghost and asks what's wrong. Isabella is reeling. She just saw the new kid step into the Grandmaster's private carriage. That shouldn't even be possible. Is the Grandmaster plotting something again? Inside the coach, Lady Seraphina is already waiting for Arthur with a sharp gaze. She leans back, eyes narrowing. Quite the first day, Arthur. You've already managed to stir up a massive amount of trouble. Arthur doesn't blink. They drew steel first, he counters. I was just making sure I walked away. Simple self-defense, really. Seraphina stays silent, her weight weighing heavy. Arthur sighs, figuring the lecture is coming. Fine, what's my sentence? The dungeons. To his shock, she just smiles. No punishment, actually. You did a fine job today. Keep that edge sharp. She explains that the council is changing their tune. The old rules of banishment, they're being loosened up. Arthur leans in, curious. So, every day is going to be a bloodbath like this morning, just like that. He looks almost too excited. Finally, no more holding back. Seraphina raises an eyebrow. Wait, you were actually being patient. Suddenly, Arthur's tone shifts. How did you even know about the fight? Were you scrying on me the whole time? She just adjusts her spectacles, her face a mask. That's confidential information, Arthur. We have our ways. Arthur's mind races. Is there a spy? He wonders if that kid Silas is a rat, but then shakes it off. No way. They pull up to a massive, stone-walled manor. Seraphina opens the heavy door. Welcome home. This is where you'll be staying. Arthur's jaw drops as he steps inside. You're serious? This whole place is for me? You're not joking. He collapses onto a velvet divan, grinning. Being a secret operative for the crown definitely has its perks. This is the high life. Then he notices something. A scent, a feeling. Wait! Someone lived here recently. Was it you, Seraphina? She nods coolly. My old chambers. Arthur practically jumps. Wait, we're sharing a roof. That's completely improper for a night. She gives him a look so fierce it could freeze fire. Arthur immediately backtracks. Actually, never mind, it's fine. He coughs, trying to act professional. Seraphina continues. The high administration was actually pleased with his performance today. They're giving him a long leash and will trust his judgment. But then comes the warning he didn't expect. The streets are different, she says. The academy teachers don't know about this project. Outside these walls, you're on your own. The crown will provide support, but he can't overdo it. If things go south, he's the one holding the blade. She hands him a heavy silk pouch filled with gold. For your daily expenses, and you'll have the manor to yourself for now. With a sharp nod, she bids him good night and wishes him luck. Arthur barely hears her, his mind already on tomorrow's chaos. He waves her off. Yeah, good night. He's just a soldier following orders after all. Seraphina descends into the bowels of the building, reaching a massive iron gate sealed by a magic fingerprint sigil. It's a hidden war room, glowing with multiple scrying mirrors. While Arthur rests on the divan, she gets to work. The next morning at the academy, Arthur is struggling. Until now, he'd spent his life sleeping on cold, hard stone floors. Now, he's so comfortable he's actually exhausted. His eyes start to droop right in the middle of a lecture. Arthur, the Master-at-Arms roars. Are my words so boring you've decided to nap in my presence? The master is fuming. Brawling on day one, I should be hauling your kin before the magistrate, if you had any. Arthur just stares at his boots as the teacher scolds him. No family, no excuses, just the old man's shouting. In the corner, Lady Isabella is watching the whole thing closely. She hasn't taken her eyes off him since the carriage incident. Another tutor approaches her. Isabella, our star pupil, you're the head of house for a reason, dear. Everything all right? She gives a polite nod and heads for the cloisters, but her mind is miles away from her studies. She passes Arthur again, hearing the master-at-arms still railing about the new student's violent tendencies. A transfer student who does nothing but draw blood. Is that all you're here for, Arthur? She wonders silently. Back at the academy, in the elite 6th house, Alastair was busy snapping photos of Beatrice, asking why she was hiding her face. Her response, cold. She told him to quit focusing on her face and just photograph her body instead. Suddenly, 2 students creep up from behind, whispering about the brutal fate that befell 𝒊𝒏𝒈. They're terrified, wondering what Alastair plans to do about the new transfer, Arthur, since 𝒊𝒏𝒈's got wrecked, and now the entire first year is falling in line. But before they can even finish that thought. Interruption. It's Alastair himself, the king of the 6th house. The student starts panicking, swearing he never said Alastair or his knights would lose the coming war. Alastair just smirks, calling the kid over to his desk. You could practically smell the fear as the student started sweating bullets. He tries to backtrack, claiming he didn't mean they'd lose, just that a fight was brewing. And then, boom, Alastair's fist connects right with his jaw. Blood everywhere. The kid is reeling, barely able to process the pain before Alastair calls him over. Again. Terrified, he approaches. This time, an even more brutal punch straight to the face. He's done. Can't even keep both eyes open at this point. Alastair just stays calm, telling him to watch that mouth of his. The student, shaking, crying, apologizing for even breathing. Idiots, Alastair mutters, eyes glued to his device as he kicks them out. They don't wait around, they bolt. Outside, the beaten student has had enough. He just wants out of this living hell. His friend thinks transferring schools is the only move left. From a distance, one of the other house leaders watches, noting Alastair's terrifying charisma. Alastair shrugs it off. He just wanted to break something. His lieutenant, Julian, suggests they ignore the rumors and start moving. But Alastair's mind is elsewhere. He asks Julian if he's noticed the trend lately. Everyone loves autocast combat in games now. Julian crosses his arms, nodding. Honestly, he won't even touch a game unless it has that easy win option. Alastair laughs. The reason it's a hit. Simple, you don't even have to lift a finger to win. Meanwhile, on a bright morning at the academy, our main character Arthur is squinting through his glasses, wondering why his seatmate is wearing an identical pair. Something's off. Suspicious, he asks Miles if there's a hidden camera tucked inside those frames. Miles looks confused, so Arthur brushes it off. Forget it, he says, asking why the sudden change. Miles claims he's always worn them. Distracted, Miles points out another student who looks exactly like a legendary knight from the local chronicles. Hugo is over there, barking orders about the mess hall. But as soon as the glasses come off, the student admits the truth. He started wearing them just to avoid being targeted for a beating, but he tells Arthur he can relax now. Why? Because Hugo is there. Without even thinking, he calls Hugo a complete jerk. Wait, what? Hugo is mid-snack, totally stunned. Panicking, Hugo asks the blonde student if he wants to play a game. The answer? A hard no. Frustrated, Hugo snaps, telling him to stop eating. Then, he drops into the deepest bow possible, apologizing like his life depends on it. The blonde kid is just confused. Is the pastry poisoned? What is wrong with this guy? Arthur watches the nerd adjust his glasses again. It's so suspicious, it's driving him crazy. The student just stammers, saying he's out of practice with spectacles. Awkward. Arthur's on edge. He's becoming hypersensitive, convinced someone, somewhere, is watching his every move. And he's right. Outside, a scout is peering through the glass, watching Arthur study and wondering if this is really the guy they're looking for. A girl is out there too, observing the new kid. Both of them think the same thing. He looks way more normal than the legends suggested. As she stalks down the hall, keeping her eyes on the room, she accidentally slams right into another student. He's instantly livid. "Get lost," he snarls. Scared out of her wits, she scrambles away. She figures he's some high-ranking thug with an attitude like that, but then he turns to the window and sees Arthur, staring right at him. He keeps walking, but he's rattled. How long has Arthur been tracking him? Back in the room, the girl with the glasses mentions a rumor. Apparently, half the girls in the academy are hanging around Class 1 just to catch a glimpse of the handsome new transfer. She teases her friend, surprised that a study-first girl would actually care about a pretty face. Her friend turns bright red, trying to find an excuse, but the tension breaks when they admit it. "Okay, fine," she confesses. "He really is that good-looking. There's definitely a reason to keep tabs on him." As the sun begins to dip below the horizon, the girl watches Arthur from the shadows. She knows his name, Arthur Vance. Her friend Alara spilled everything. He transferred in from the iron port. Alara even managed to snag his home address near the Merchant's Row. She claims he has this irresistible charm, leaving her friend completely speechless and shocked. Now she's ducking behind a stone pillar, watching his every move. She feels like a total stalker, but she just can't look away. Alaric heads home alone today, leaving Lady Alina wondering about their secret bond and why he suddenly transferred here. Eyes are everywhere. As thugs gather, a scout asks Lord Cedric if they really need to ambush the new kid. Cedric snaps that orders are orders. He's convinced 4 squires are more than enough to break the transfer student. One hesitates, noting that Marcus and Clara are nearby, and they aren't even leading this targeted assault. An annoyed Cedric demands to know what the holdup is. Are they failing to show their true strength because of him? He boasts that in any other kingdom, he'd have conquered half the nobility. Rules don't matter to a predator like him. The house leaders share a dark goal. Cedric and Jasper plan to dominate every freshman in the realm very soon. It's time to settle things. He tells them to finish the job and send word the moment it's done. Once Cedric leaves, his lackeys gush over his power. He seemed so ordinary in the 6th house, but he's terrifying. Another student sees this as a chance to climb the social ladder. From a distance, they spot Alaric approaching. The new kid walks right into their trap. The leader smashes his cup on the ground. It's time to hunt. Alaric senses the pursuit. He suspects he's being followed but keeps moving, turning corners as if he's completely oblivious. He maintains a normal pace down the street. Meanwhile, the girl stalking him is panicked. Why is this group following him? She steps out to see what's happening, but she's spotted. The squire who saw her earlier demands an explanation. The girl fakes a conversation on her phone. Suspicious, the student tells his friends to go ahead without him. He corners her, accusing her of tailing him for blocks. She denies it, claiming she's just walking the same path. He remembers her bumping into him earlier. Suddenly, his ego takes over. He's convinced she's actually in love with him. He calls her cute and asks why she's really following. "Wanna come watch me work?" he asks with a grin. He forces his arm around her, suggesting they go find a private room together. The girl is absolutely revolted. She shoves him away with pure disgust. "Get your hands off me," she screams. Her patience has officially run out. Infuriated, he curses at her. He's convinced she's just playing hard to get and advances on her with violent intent. His friends hear the noise and stop. This draws Alaric's attention. He realizes the pack has stopped following his every move. The student is clutching his eyes in agony. The girl stands her ground, holding a bottle of blinding pepper spray. She warns him never to touch her again. The group arrives to find their friend blinded and screaming in pain. One bully tells her to drop the spray before he gets physical. Terrified, she insists that he was the aggressor. The thug doesn't care about the truth. He threatens her, but she's ready to spray anyone who takes a step. From a distance, Alaric watches the chaos. He asks what they're doing, his voice cutting through the tension like ice. The girl is shocked to see the new kid. Annoyed, the lead bully tells Alaric to mind his own business. The injured student tries to see through the sting. The bully realizes Alaric is here because his friend lured him. Alaric asks if they've been tailing him. They lie through their teeth, pointing a way to get him to leave. Alaric says he has business to settle and invites the thugs to join him. One of them eagerly accepts the challenge. Shaken, the girl watches them go. Did he really just lead them away to save her from those predators? They reach an alley, but it's already occupied. 2 students from the rival Blackwood Academy are waiting in the dark. It's a first-year knight named Alistair and his companion, Jinnu. Jinnu sneers at seeing girls from Rosewood Academy nearby. Alistair calls them a bunch of nerds and tells them to get lost. The tension in the air is suffocating. One bully asks if they know Lord Cedric. He claims they're just doing what the 6th house commanded of them. The strangers confirm they know Cedric well. Alaric silently watches, waiting for the sparks to finally fly in this alley. The Blackwood student offers a warning. He'll let this pass, but using Cedric's name in vain will cost them everything. The bully is fuming at his terrible luck. Why did they have to run into these elite academy fighters now? Jinnu notices the girl and asks if she's with them. The bully quickly denies it, wanting no part of her. Alaric keeps a close watch, his suspicion growing. He knows there's more to this meeting than just simple chance. Later, in a grand manner, Jasper finds Cedric. He asks why Cedric isn't handling the new transfer student himself. Cedric explains he sent 𝒊𝒏𝒈 and the others to deal with it. He's confident the job will be done soon. Jasper remains skeptical of the plan. He wonders if 𝒊𝒏𝒈 and his group are truly enough to stop Alaric. The power struggle within the houses is just beginning, and Alaric is right at the center of the storm. Arthur reckons he's got this, but Alistair's reputation is no joke. If you aren't elite, you don't survive. Especially since the second-year squires at Dragon's Reach Academy fight like seasoned veterans. In a dark alleyway, a pack of these thugs finally corners our main man, Arthur. The girl with him is trembling, but the lead bully just snarls at her to shut up and watch the show. Arthur's just wondering why she's been tailing him all day. He tells the thugs to let her walk. The leader, 𝒊𝒏𝒈, just laughs. He tosses his cloak aside, asking Arthur if he realizes how screwed he is. "You're here to get your teeth kicked in," 𝒊𝒏𝒈 sneers. Arthur just shrugs, it wasn't on his schedule. But then he remembers the name Thorn. If Alistair keeps sending goons, someone's going to end up in a casket. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 leans in close, blowing smoke right in Arthur's face like a total cliché. "Big mistake. Arthur warns him, do that again, and you're a dead man." 𝒊𝒏𝒈 goes for it anyway, but Arthur is faster. He grabs the guy's jaw in a literal death grip. Before 𝒊𝒏𝒈 can blink, his legs are swept out and Arthur is already winding up the finisher. Crack, a massive fist connects with 𝒊𝒏𝒈's face, sending teeth and spit flying everywhere. The girl is frozen in shock, and the rest of the gang, they're absolutely losing their minds. Arthur stands over the wreckage. "Your friend didn't listen," he says. "You're all next." The thugs are terrified, but failing Lord Alistair, that's a fate worse than death. They all charge at once, but as they get close to Arthur, the front line starts to hesitate. Arthur just gives them this look of pure disdain. "Fine," he says, "I'll start." He fakes a left, then pivots and buries a fist into the next guy's jaw. Total chaos. Another thug lunges with a curse, but Arthur dodges like he's dancing and targets the next victim. One punch, right to the middle of the face. The guy is out cold before he even hits the cobblestones. Only one left standing. He's shaking, trying to talk himself into a group attack that's already failed. Arthur doesn't wait. A brutal front kick sends the guy flying into a nearby iron fence. From the shadows, a hidden thug tries a desperate strike, but Arthur just tanks it and counters. He catches the guy's arm, slams him into the dirt, and prepares to drop a knee onto his skull. The thug is drenched in cold sweat, staring at death. Arthur stops. "You got lucky this time." Meanwhile, over at the gaming tavern, Alistair Thorne is fuming because he just lost a magical duel. His buddy mocks him, losing even with auto spells. Magic has its limits, Alistair. A messenger arrives with news. Alistair demands to know why the job is taking so long. His face goes pale when he hears the report. His entire squad, utterly demolished by one guy. Back in the alley, one thug is having a literal nightmare, sprinting through a dark, void-like forest. A titanic, ghostly hand is chasing him. He's screaming, his lungs burning as he runs for his life. He sees a glimpse of light, an exit. He thinks he's finally safe, finally home free. Then the hand slams down. Massive, crushing weight pins him to the earth just inches from safety. He barely squirms out, jumping for joy like a madman. I'm alive, I actually made it. Then the aura shifts. Arthur appears like a vengeful shadow, fist raised for the kill. Boom, the thug bolts upright, just a nightmare. No, it's much worse. Arthur is standing right there. The whole squad is laid out on the ground in agony. Get in line, Arthur commands, kicking him awake. He's disgusted by their cowardice. Word spreads to the higher-ups. Who is this kid taking down 4 squires at once? Some transfer from the northern kingdoms, comes the reply. A terrified Alistair just stares at the news. Arthur grabs the lead thug. Who sent you? Was it Alistair Thorne? Don't lie to me. The thug is caught between a rock and a hard place. If he snitches, Alistair will end him. He tries to play dumb, but Arthur's grip on his collarbone tightens. Do I look like a jester to you? Terrified, the thug spills everything. Alistair sent us, just, please don't tell him I talked. Julian watches the new girl, wondering if she's some kind of rogue as he checks his concealed blade. He demands to know what she's doing there with that bully. She claims she followed the thug because she's in love, then immediately snaps, screaming that she actually loathes his very existence. She hurls a barrage of insults at his face until his pride is in tatters. The bully stammers an apology, claiming she was just acting suspicious. That gets Julian's attention. He's unsure how to handle this bizarre drama when the girl suddenly cuts him off. She tells him he's watched too many theater plays and is totally mistaken. She claims she hates violence and just walks away. Julian stays suspicious, watching her go. Out in the streets, she spots students from the rougher merchant guild school. She thinks everyone in this kingdom looks like a bandit. The guild students gawk at her, calling her a rare beauty. Meanwhile, the bully hands over his contact seal to Julian. But Julian is seething, demanding he bring Alaric to him immediately. The bully agrees to the demand. The next morning at Drake Academy, Julian is losing his patience as the 3rd bell rings. Still no sign of Alaric. Julian wonders why the target hasn't shown his face, even though the morning lessons are over. Barnaby, the bully, swears he hasn't seen Alaric today and begs for Julian to believe him. Julian just gets philosophical. If the king won't come to the mountain goes to the king. A bit later, Julian kicks open the door to Class 6. Barnaby is horrified to see the new transfer student standing there, with a cold, deathly serious expression. Julian demands Alaric's location. Barnaby plays dumb until Julian grips his collarbone, making him realize exactly who he's dealing with. Without his spectacles, Julian is unrecognizable. The whole room goes silent as a new girl suddenly bursts in. She berates Barnaby for being a disgrace and asks why the new kid is causing a scene in their territory. She grabs Julian by his tunic, realizing he's the new transfer. When Julian asks why she's touching him, things escalate fast. Slap! A heavy blow hits Julian's face, knocking his glasses right onto the stone floor. She tells him to mind his manners. She asks if he has any idea who he's disrespecting right now. Julian admits he doesn't know her and asks who's paying for his broken glasses. She just ignores him. She calls him clueless and asks if he knows of Arthur, the legendary leader of the 3rd-year Knights. Julian remains unfazed, saying the name means nothing to him. The girl swoons internally, thinking Julian looks incredibly handsome. Julian asks what any of this nightly drama has to do with him. Suddenly, another student enters the fray. This newcomer kicks Barnaby straight in the gut. Julian watches, surprised, as the student grabs the bully by his hair. He delivers a brutal palm strike, then winds up for an even more devastating blow that makes Barnaby spit blood. Julian wonders what the hell is happening. In absolute agony, Barnaby groans out the name Alaric. That's the name. Julian realizes this violent newcomer is his target. Alaric confirms it, saying he heard Julian was looking for him. Julian doesn't back down. "Yeah," he says, "I've been looking for you." The atmosphere turns icy. The entire class is terrified, and Julian realizes every eye in the room is on him. He recalls his Lord Commander's orders, "Do whatever it takes." Alaric just gives him a mocking, arrogant look. Alaric asks what Julian could possibly want from him. Julian doesn't waste words. He lunges forward with a strike. He moves like lightning, but before the blow lands, someone steps in and blocks it with ease. It's Silas from Class 5. He demands to know why Julian is starting a brawl out of nowhere. Julian asks who this meddler is. Silas introduces himself and warns that violence isn't the answer here. Silas tries to force Julian to the ground, but then crack. He stops, his face turning pale. His arm is locked tight. He's trembling, realizing he can't move this new kid even a single inch. Julian mocks his pathetic strength, asking if that's really the best he can do. Silas quickly pulls back. He tries to save face, telling Julian that no matter how chaotic this academy gets, there are still rules. Alaric suddenly acts friendly, hugging Barnaby and claiming yesterday was just a big misunderstanding. Then his face turns demonic. He grabs Barnaby by the hair again, demanding a real explanation for the mess. Barnaby starts to stammer, but a savage left hook shuts him up instantly. Julian watches, genuinely surprised. Alaric starts kicking the bully, shouting that this whole situation makes him feel like absolute trash. Barnaby keeps begging for mercy. Alaric just sneers, asking if his head is empty or if he's just too stupid to follow orders. Julian watches the beating in silence. After finishing with the bully, the Class 6 leader sighs. He admits he handled this poorly. Then he turns to Julian. "Now tell me, why are you after me?" Even though he's innocent, Alastair feels like absolute trash. Without a shred of proof to clear his name, he looks away, his pride stinging as he starts to present his case, only to realize he's got nothing. Cedric, completely fed up, snaps at the sniveling Barnaby to stop faking his injuries and just tells him to shut it. Julian then turns to the new squire, calling him a liar and declaring that since the treaties between houses are dead, the rules don't apply to him anymore either. The academy bell suddenly tolls. Thinking fast, our protagonist realizes his hands are tied for now, so he simply turns on his heel and walks away. Cedric grins, praising Julian for handling that mess so perfectly, while Julian admits his heart was actually hammering in his chest. He warns the group that this new kid is the real deal, dangerously strong, and it's probably smarter to avoid a direct brawl with him if they can. Clutching his device, Cedric mutters that there's only one way left to crush a threat like this. Later, during a lecture in House 1, Alastair is lost in his own head. He knows Cedric is guilty as hell, but his own influence was completely stripped away in that one disastrous moment. He flashes back to when Cedric brutalized a younger page and how a lone friend stood up to defend him. He realizes that if he recruits someone who spits on the Academy's peerage system, he'll be branded the villain of the story. And since the only victim here is a known thug, launching an investigation into the bully hierarchy just became 10 times harder. Right then, the professor mentions that in any great war, having a righteous justification is the absolute key to victory. That's the spark. Alastair fixates on the idea of justification, realizing he just needs one solid, moral excuse to finally take action. Meanwhile, behind the castle walls, 5 students are getting absolutely wrecked. Barnaby gets it the worst, taking 2 brutal strikes to the face instead of 1. Cedric is fuming, cursing them out for being pathetic enough to lose to a single outsider. Barnaby silently realizes that even Cedric is too scared to fight the new kid alone. He starts to warn him that the transfer student isn't human, but Cedric's phone rings and he barks at the boy to shut his mouth. It's Gareth on the other end, currently perched on a defeated rival. Apparently, some peasants failed to collect the weekly tithes they owed. Gareth tells his crew he needs to take this call and asks 𝒊𝒏𝒈 what went down yesterday. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 admits they need to summon the entire vanguard because his first attempt to handle the kid was a total embarrassment. He promises that once they're done, the new kid will be half dead in the dirt. Curious, the brute from the northern barracks asks if the kid is actually tough and suggests using sheer numbers to swarm him. One of the fighters tries to speak up, but 𝒊𝒏𝒈 ignores him, asking who Gareth is really talking about. He wonders about that girl from the previous day and demands Barnaby tell him exactly who she is. Barnaby is confused. Why bring her up? She has zero connection to this war. But Gareth cuts in, saying he's going to target her regardless. With a truly stomach-turning grin, he mentions she's exactly his type and plans to have some fun with her later. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 cold-bloodedly decides they'll just kidnap her too, leaving Barnaby absolutely horrified that an innocent girl is being dragged into this nightmare. At that moment, the leader asks if the bully actually hurt him, making Barnaby realize with a jolt that they are dead set on using her as bait. He's terrified, desperately hoping they'll wait, recalling the ironclad academy rule. You can only seize control of a house by defeating its designated lord. He figures they can't touch students from other divisions without starting a full-scale revolt between the noble houses. Since the girl belongs to House 9, he's certain their leader, Lord Stirling, will never stand for such an insult to his territory. But 𝒊𝒏𝒈 just laughs it off. Girls don't pay protection tithes anyway, so the rules are fuzzy. Recalling his last meeting with Lord Stirling, 𝒊𝒏𝒈 confidently claims he'll just conquer House 9 next, telling Barnaby to stop whining and just deliver the 2 targets he asked for. Back at House 1, Barnaby is literally on his knees, begging for forgiveness and swearing he'll never cause trouble again. Rumors are flying through the halls. The blonde noble mentions the new kid allegedly took down 4 knights single-handedly. Benedict is stunned, and Silas mutters that the kid is already becoming a living legend within the academy walls. The blonde knight decides he wants to be best friends with the transfer student, but Silas points out the kid barely even acknowledges their existence. With his boot resting on the bully, Alistair coldly asks if this was all his fault, while the boy continues to sob and apologize for the beating he took. Our protagonist looks down and realizes this bully is actually just a pathetic, broken mess. He tells him if he's really sorry, he needs to apologize to the girl from yesterday. Embarrassed, Barnaby agrees instantly and even offers to buy the new kid a bowl of spiced meat stew as a peace offering. Surprised, the new kid wonders if he should actually go, feeling a weird sense of pity for this loser. In the end, he figures why not. He accepts the offer, especially since the bully is the one footing the bill. Over at House 9, Alina asks if he's really buying her spiced stew to make amends, and he nervously confirms it. He's being super careful, swearing he's not a creep and just wants to say sorry. He mentions Alistair is coming along, and Isabella's ears perk up instantly. She's thrilled, telling them to move it, but Barnaby points out he didn't actually invite her. Alina's friend says it'll be awkward with a crowd, and that it should just be the 2 of them. But Isabella starts begging, realizing this is her one shot to hang out with the mysterious new student. Giving in, Barnaby says she can tag along since he's paying, but he immediately regrets calling it a double date. Beatrice reluctantly accepts the invitation, but admits it's a terrible idea. Arthur, actually surprised, just smirks. They agree to meet after the training bells. As Arthur walks off, he starts spiraling. What did he just do? He genuinely thought they were just grabbing a meal. Now, he's dragged Lady Alina into a war zone. He's panicking. Then a scholarly page catches his eye. Is that Lord Alistair's personal aide? Are they closer than he thought? Later, as the sun dips below the castle walls, 2 brutes from the mercenary guild ask if they should even meddle. This is an internal school feud, but Drake says it must be done because Kaelin is hiding behind them like a coward. The mercenaries ask what happens if they crush Kaelin. Simple, He'll be exiled or forced to renounce his noble title. If he falls, they believe Kalen will help their guild seize the southern realm after he's finished conquering the north. More gold, more power. Jackson is tired of being a peasant. For that to happen, the outcast knight must be stopped. Meanwhile, across the city, Cedric is walking with the rival squire and those two ladies from the 9th district. Seriously, what a bizarre combination. Beatrice is visibly uncomfortable, but Alina, she's only thinking about the food. Alina is just hyped to eat with the newcomer. She can't believe how quickly this dinner date is progressing. Cedric asks about their destination. Everything is boarded up. Do they even serve roasted boar in a place like this? The rival nods while avoiding eye contact. Arya, totally smitten, chirps that the best taverns are always hidden away. No signs, no crowds, that's the mark of quality. The rival is impressed. You really know your way around, don't you? She brags about her tavern knowledge, but admits she never knew a legendary kitchen existed in this dumpy neighborhood. Beatrice agrees. She didn't know either. Suddenly, Cedric turns to the rival and demands the name of this legendary tavern. The rival starts sweating. Cedric narrows his eyes. Why so twitchy? Is this a setup? What are you hiding? He looks back and boom. Figures in the shadows. Knights in training from the Iron Academy. It's an ambush. Cedric roars Arthur's name. Terrified, Arthur drops to his knees, begging, "Kill me later, just please. I had no choice." He claims he was forced. Beatrice is pale, finally seeing the trap. Alina, still totally lost and confused by it all. Alina asks what's wrong, but Beatrice is livid. "You absolute trash," she screams. Arthur just keeps sobbing on the ground. Beatrice is horrified. He should have at least left Alina out of this mess. Then, a brute from the academy speaks up. "She's a feisty one," the mercenary sneers. "Prettier when she's mad." Another bully mocks Arthur for kneeling to a nobody. "Kalen will kill you for this." The leader walks up, mocking Arthur's cowardice. Then Cedric steps into the light. Cedric's glare is pure, murderous ice. "I'll deal with you later," he growls. Arthur is shaking, absolutely petrified. "Is that him?" a mercenary asks. "The kid who supposedly took out 4 armored knights single-handedly." His buddy laughs. "Those knights must have been idiots. Cedric looks like a weakling." But the rival knows better. "Don't underestimate him," the rival warns. He and Jackson have witnessed Cedric's true, terrifying strength firsthand. One mercenary crosses his arms, skeptical. "Strong, huh? Let's see it then." He steps forward, ready to test the legend. He wants first blood. He needs to know if the Lord of Crestwood is the real deal or just all talk. The brute brags about being in the top 10 of the Iron Academy's elite recruits. He's confident, way too confident. While he monologues, Cedric looks bored. Irritated, the brute barks, "Where are you even looking, you pathetic little worm?" "I'm looking right at you," Cedric sighs. Milo snarls, unsure if he's being mocked. "If you're gonna fight, move." Milo starts acting weird. He claims he's mastered a secret technique, a vision that goes beyond any normal man. He charges at Cedric, screaming that no one survives once they look into his cursed, hypnotic eyes. His partner just laughs. If that were true, we'd all be corpses. Milo is just a big-mouthed liar. But wait, the partner remembers fighting Milo. It wasn't just a bluff. Those eyes, they actually do something. You have to watch an opponent's eyes to predict their moves. But Milo's eyes, they're impossible to read. Dodging his strikes is a nightmare. Even though he won with raw wrestling, he's not sure how Cedric will cope. It's not going to be easy, or so he thinks, because Cedric already has Milo in a brutal arm lock. Milo is stunned. The chokehold is locked in tight. He's fading fast, and he didn't even see Cedric move. Is he even awake? It's hard to tell since Milo's eyes always look the same, completely unreadable and blank. Cedric calmly tells him to yield, but the pressure doesn't stop. Milo's face is turning a deep, sickly purple. Cedric doesn't even blink. Beatrice starts to worry. This is cold. The bullies just stand there, jaws on the floor. Arthur looks them dead in the eye, his voice cold as ice. "You really thought I'd just release your captives because you asked nicely? Not a chance." You dragged innocents into this mess with the intent to spill blood. Well, guess what? I'm playing by your rules now. I'm fighting to end this permanently. One of the squires laughs, claiming Arthur is clueless. Defeating one of them means absolutely nothing. There are 9 more seasoned fighters waiting to tear him apart. It's a numbers game he simply can't win. Another young noble asks if he honestly thinks he'll be the last man standing. Arthur ignores the taunt and walks toward Alara. He hands her his traveling satchel, telling her to find cover. This is about to get ugly. Alara's friend rolls her eyes, blushing hard. This isn't some grand romance scroll, she mutters. Arthur just stretches his shoulders, signaling the bullies to bring everything they've got. The plan is simple. Surround the new kid. 5 knights in training will lead the charge, and once he's down, the rest will stomp him out. They move into formation, closing the circle. 5 against 1. Arthur scans the field, coolly analyzing their stance. He doesn't wait for them to move. He bursts toward the weakest link, slamming into him with the force of a charging bull. He pins the guy against the stone wall and follows up with a brutal knockout blow. Before he can breathe, another bully lunges. Cursing, the attacker charges. Arthur grabs a handful of dirt from a nearby pot and flings it right into his eyes, classic blinding maneuver. Suddenly, a blonde knight swings a heavy kick. Arthur catches it midair and slams the guy into the dirt without blinking. He ducks a wild swing, counters with a devastating uppercut to the chin, and finishes the blonde with a boot to the skull. Julian is speechless. He knew Arthur was capable, but this is legendary. He starts wondering if Arthur could actually take the top seats. If he can beat Cedric and Victor, he could become the undisputed lord of the entire academy. No, he corrects himself. It's not just possible. At this rate, Arthur is definitely going to pull it off. Terrified, the lead coward screams at his men to stop standing around. They all rush in at once, but Arthur is ready. He starts moving fast. He weaves through the chaos, buries a hook into someone's ribs, and cracks another across the jaw. Another fool charges and eats a front kick before he can even swing. He's hacking up blood from the impact. Arthur follows up with a brutal strike to the throat, sending him crashing. Now, just the 2 leaders remain. Arthur wipes the sweat away. 7 at once is a bit much, he admits. But now it's just down to the 2 of you. Baron Jace lets out a shaky, nervous laugh. You're not human, he stammers, watching his men lay broken on the ground. Julian watches closely. Arthur used their momentum against them, forcing them into a line so they couldn't flank him. It was a tactical masterclass. By keeping them stacked, he turned a gang-up into a series of one-on-ones. Jace has to admit it, the kid is a monster. But then, the sound of heavy boots echoes through the courtyard. More reinforcements. Arthur's heart sinks as a fresh wave of thugs approaches. Jace smirks, reaching for a weapon. One of the new arrivals laughs, seeing his fallen comrades. He pulls out a heavy iron mace, admitting he's always wanted to bash some skulls. He tells Arthur that while his performance was impressive, his luck has finally run out. Today is the day he dies. Arthur scratches his head, looking for an exit. Jace mocks him, asking if he really thinks he can take them all alone. Then a voice cuts through the tension. Who said he was alone? Everyone turns, shocked to see who just arrived. It's Miles, Arthur's closest ally. Arthur looks confused, wondering why the hell he's showing up now of all times. But Miles isn't by himself. A group of familiar faces steps out from the shadows, leaving the new kid stunned. Hugo and Silas have joined the fray. Silas steps forward, admitting he's here to back up the Lord of the First Ward. He grumbles that Arthur is annoying and took his position, but he couldn't just sit back while his comrade got jumped. How did you find us? Arthur asks. Miles points to Julian, who tries to look inconspicuous while Julian tells him to shut it. Jace realizes he's been betrayed, and his face turns purple with rage. Julian just shrugs, claiming he was just thinking out loud. Furious, Jace swears that Cedric will have his head for this, but he'll kill Arthur himself first. Julian doesn't flinch. He admits he hates taking orders from cowards who hide behind dirty tricks anyway. He's done being a subordinate to the Academy's trash. He officially cuts ties with the thugs right then and there. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 asks if Julian is officially on their side now. Good, he says. That's one more sword in our favor. But the math is still bad. They're still facing 7 or 8 seasoned fighters. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 looks at the enemy leaders. He suggests Arthur takes the 2 big bosses while the rest of them handle the grunts. It's a solid plan. Miles immediately announces he's just here to watch and won't be lifting a finger. Jace realizes 𝒊𝒏𝒈 is no ordinary squire. He looks at Hugo, mistaking him for a battle-hardened mercenary veteran. Arthur opens his mouth to thank 𝒊𝒏𝒈, but the fight is on. Arthur steps up, refusing to let these noble recruits handle the mess alone, because each man has to take down at least 2 thugs. One of the brutes is even armed with steel, but Arthur tells Cedric to stay calm, because he's the dirtiest fighter in the kingdom. He drops his travel packs and tells the group to brace themselves while one thug tucks his gold pouch away for the fight. Julian unfolds a leather map case as Arthur pulls a weapon from his bag, a heavy iron combat baton. The lead thug slips on steel gauntlets while Julian grips a sharpened iron key, and Arthur realizes these aren't just typical town guards. Cedric is baffled. Do these idiots have rocks for brains? He can't understand why their packs are loaded like a secret armory. A thug calls the redhead the legendary master of all weapons, while his friend asks if he's quoting some old bard's tale. The brute with gauntlets realizes they're talking about Arthur, and Arthur points directly at the thug holding a heavy wooden club. "You actually know how to swing that," Arthur taunts, but the brute just grunts that all he needs to do is crack a skull. Confident the day is won, Arthur challenges the thug, promising to teach him a lesson in real combat. The thug snarls, saying he won't be held responsible if Arthur's head is smashed to bits. Arthur just laughs. "Come and try." The brute charges, screaming murder. Arthur analyzes him instantly. He's right-handed, and as a beginner, he'll swing high and diagonal. Blinding the brute with a handful of chalk dust, Arthur readies his stance for a devastating counterstrike. A heavy fist sinks deep into the thug's gut, leaving him completely paralyzed with pure, unadulterated shock. Arthur follows up with a brutal kick to the groin, sending him to his knees before finishing the job with a boot to the face. The other recruits are speechless. They had no idea just how mercilessly Arthur could fight when the gloves came off. Snatching up the fallen brute's club, Arthur grins. He's a natural. Now he's armed with both the baton and the club for the rest. A noble squire wonders if this is some legendary dual blade style, while another calls Arthur a savage for those groin kicks. Arthur is just getting started. "If you won't come to me," he mocks, "then I'm coming for you." A thug rushes in, desperately guarding his face and vitals, but Arthur slips the punch and shatters the man's lower thigh. Another thug lunges, but Julian intercepts him with a lightning-fast punch to the jaw, leaving the man absolutely livid. With a look that could kill, Julian brandishes his sharpened key as the thugs realize they've picked a fight with lunatics. "They're crazy," one thug screams, telling his friends to grab anything they can find off the dirt ground. One picks up a jagged glass bottle, hesitating at the danger, but his friend barks that there's no time for mercy. Suddenly, the brute with steel gauntlets charges with incredible speed, but a recruit counters his strike with a high kick. A squire named Tristan arrives just in time, burying a boot into the thug's ribs. The entire situation is pure chaos. Cedric laughs at the arrogance. "Guess your numbers didn't matter after all. Do you only fight with your mouths?" The lead thugs, Victor and James, prepare for blood. James swears that no matter how many duels Cedric has won, he won't lose. "I'll go first," James says, telling Victor to stay back. He knows he can't win a long fistfight against Cedric's speed. He gets into a low stance and lunges at the protagonist, desperate to end the fight before Cedric can land a blow. Cedric catches him mid-charge. The brute is totally stunned. His plan just went up in smoke instantly. Cedric deflects the attack and slams his hand down on the brute's head, just as Victor tries to intervene with a kick. The new recruit barely dodges the blow, but James manages to wrap his massive arms around Cedric's torso. "I've got you now," the brute screams with murderous rage. He's a trained grappler and he thinks the fight is over. Cedric is actually surprised. A grappler? James pulls with every ounce of his strength, roaring that he's going to kill him. But Cedric doesn't stop. He starts walking even with the brute hanging on. James panics, realizing his grip isn't enough to stop him. He locks one of Cedric's arms and hoists him up. He's going for a back suplex, a throw that could snap a man's neck. If he lands this, it's a death sentence. James pours everything into the move, throwing Cedric backward with all his might. But Cedric grabs the stone wall as they fall, using his raw strength to stop his body from slamming into the dirt. James is in total shock. He can't move. He realizes too late that Cedric ran toward the wall on purpose. They both crash down, and Cedric lands a punch with such immense impact that it knocks the brute unconscious instantly. The girl watching is horrified. Cedric raises his fist for another blow, but the fallen thug finally regains his senses. "Stop, I yield," the brute begs, terrified. He admits he was wrong and swears he'll never lay a finger on them again. Cedric's aura is pure murder. He curses the man, lands one more heavy punch, and locks him in a brutal chokehold. As James begs for his life, Cedric's eyes go cold. "You're dying today," he growls. "What's a coward like you going to do?" He stood his ground, staring down the night and questioning his every move. The reason he'd joined this academy was simple: to shatter the hierarchy once and for all. "Who do you think truly rules the Royal Academy of the Golden Dragon?" he hissed. "Is it Lord Julian, or the man currently crushing your windpipe?" Brutal. Meanwhile, in the chaos of the courtyard, Rowan sent a heavy fist right into 𝒊𝒏𝒈's jaw, sending the poor lad spiraling to the cobblestones. They announced they were finished there, threatening 𝒊𝒏𝒈, who just told them to get lost. They vanished like ghosts. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 just stood there, stunned. Was this actually happening? Liam stepped up, asking Alistair if he was finally done, and if he was going to let the poor bastard breathe. Alistair's eyes were cold. He swore no one would ever stain the honor of the Golden Dragon Academy again. Liam mentioned that Julian was already gathering knights from rival houses. He suggested they charge Julian's manor right now and end it. But Alistair had a different plan, a smarter one. He admitted he was exhausted. "Thank you for coming," he whispered. "You're the only reason I'm still standing." The three of them actually blushed, total embarrassment. He even thanked Felix, who played it cool, claiming he didn't do much at all. But then Alistair turned back to Rowan. "Are you forgetting something?" he asked, recalling his dark promise from earlier. Rowan started panicking. "Is this the part where I die?" he wailed, sobbing about how he's never even had a lady's hand to hold. Classic. Alistair ignored the drama and turned to the ladies, asking if they were hurt. Alina breathed a sigh of relief. It was finally over. He approached Genevieve, checking on her, and she froze. He was holding her waist and her heart, absolutely racing. She was completely mesmerized. He asked why her face was glowing red, but she just stuttered that she was fine. So awkward. Our hero apologized for the mess, but Alina shook her head. She blamed Rowan entirely. That's when Isadora stepped in. "His very existence is the mistake," she snapped. Everyone froze. The air went cold as she looked Alistair dead in the eye. She accused him of using bullies like playthings, beating them down and dragging everyone else into his personal hell. "You're all the same," she finished coldly. "Solving problems with cheap, childish violence. Just go somewhere quiet and rot." And just like that, the girls walked away. Alistair stood there, the words cutting deeper than any blade. He knew she was right. Rowan stayed silent too, the weight of it hitting them both. Alina looked back, her heart heavy. A moment later, Alina asked if Isadora was okay. Isadora apologized for the outburst, but the hatred in her eyes was real. She decided she was done with the transfer student. He wasn't part of her grand design anyway, not anymore. She told Alina she had somewhere else to be. Alina knew instantly. She was going to see her brother, young Julian. Isadora confirmed it with a soft nod. She missed him terribly today. Alina watched her go, worried for her friend. She knew Isadora was sensitive lately. It all came back to her little brother. Walking home, Alina realized the day wasn't a total loss. Even if they missed tea, Rowan actually seemed sorry for once. Back with the group, Alistair dropped a heavy hand on Rowan's shoulder. "So, how do you want to go?" he asked. "Drowning, that'll cost you 10,000 gold." Rowan gasped. He begged for one last chance to apologize to the girls before his execution. Alistair softened. "Yeah, you owe them that." He knew Rowan was a prick, but there were far worse monsters lurking in the shadows. Later, at the Grand Infirmary, a young boy lay still. It was Isidora's brother, fighting for every breath through a magical bellows. Watching him, Isidora's blood boiled. Do these thugs ever feel guilt? Do they even care about the lives they ruin? To them, it's just a game, beating people for sport, for fun. She whispered to herself, wondering if they knew the cost. Meanwhile, back at the manor, Lord Julian was throwing a fit over his strategic map. He lost again. Why does this even exist? He declared he was burning the whole board. Pure arrogance. That's when Rowan and the Class 6 knights arrived. Julian didn't even look up. He told Rowan to take his hands out of his pockets and demanded to know where the others were. But Rowan wasn't listening. He was reflecting on whether everyone was just caught in the same cycle of violence. He realized it was all just a game to them, until now. Rowan started walking, his eyes locked on Julian. Julian's temper flared. He clenched his fists, sensing the shift in the air. This wasn't a social call. Rowan swung. Julian dodged with the grace of a trained noble, calling him a traitorous bastard. He landed a brutal counterpunch right into Rowan's ribs. Ouch! But Rowan wasn't alone. Another student lunged with a flying kick that Julian barely avoided. Suddenly, a fist connected, crack right across Julian's face. Another kick caught him square under the chin. Rowan followed up with a heavy blow that sent the noble sprawling. Julian lay there, battered and bruised, realizing this group was absolutely relentless. Pure fury unleashed. In the silence of the hospital, Isidora wondered about the weight of regret. When you finally have to pay for your sins, will you actually reflect on what you've done? The ancient law was simple after all. An eye for an eye. An eye for an eye. But is this really the way? Arthur wonders, fleeing in pure, blind desperation. Through the shadows, he runs. The pack of thugs is right behind him, their footsteps echoing on the midnight cobblestones. He looks back for a split second and crash. He hits a stone marker. Gareth lunges, but Arthur moves like lightning. A heavy punch lands right on Gareth's jaw, but Gareth counters with a sickening kick to the ribs, sending Arthur flying. The squires sneer, "We'll keep it light," but Gareth's eyes are cold. "Time to pay for your sins, Arthur." Gareth laughs at the mighty, noble now shivering in the dirt. "You're nothing alone. We're done with you forever." In the infirmary, Lady Jane watches her brother. The world isn't fair, so she's done trying to be. They'll pay, every single one of them. She whispers a vow of vengeance over her brother's broken body. "Please, Julian, wake up." By dawn at the academy, the news of Arthur's fall is everywhere. Students huddle over a scrying glass, watching the fight. Then, the door swings open. It's Gareth's new elite guard. The whispers grow louder. What happens now? Is there a new king of the squires in the castle? Lord Gareth kicks his boots up on a desk. He's the boss now, and Arthur. He didn't even show his face today. A squire asks about the message deliveries. Gareth looks to his cronies, wondering how to reorganize their little empire. "A horse race," his friend suggests. "Whoever is slowest becomes the new messenger boy for the whole wing." Suddenly, a stranger enters, hands in his cloak, looking bored. It's Alistair from the first wing, and Gareth freezes. Alistair acts shy, too shy. Gareth stammers, "What brings a highborn like you to my humble classroom?" Alistair offers a cold smile. "Congrats on the promotion, Gareth. You seem to be enjoying the view from the top." Gareth's voice shakes. It's all right." Alistair cuts him off. "Fight me as the boss or just take the beating." Gareth whimpers, "Just go easy on me." Alistair nods. "Oh, I'll be gentle." Then he lets it rip. Boom. A devastating fist connects with Gareth's jaw, leaving a massive purple mark across his face. As Gareth hits the stone floor, he feels light, like he's actually soaring through the clouds, almost peaceful. But wait, panic sets in. I shouldn't be flying from one punch, he thinks, seeing his own heap from the window. Alistair turns to the rest of the gang. You're next. They scramble instantly. The gang, we quit 3 seconds ago. Alistair drops a heavy hand on his shoulder. Smart. From now on, you're going to be model citizens of the realm. They nod frantically. One claims his new dream is to be a lowly peasant, while another jokes about total failure. They're doomed, and they know it. The other squires are speechless. Alistair is the strongest knight they've ever seen. A lackey desperately slaps Gareth's face, trying to wake the boss, who's currently out cold on the floor. Lord Alistair has taken 4 wings of the academy in a single week. 4. He's basically the new king. His 3 friends won't stop shouting his praises. It's a lot. Honestly, it's giving Alistair a massive headache. Smack, he hits all 3 with a thick book. Shut it, he growls, but Harry just laughs it off. That's nothing, Harry says, inviting him to the tavern since he finally reached elite knight rank in the joust. Alistair adjusts his spectacles. You guys are annoying. Fine, let's go. The trio lets out a victory cheer. Miles admits he's still a lowly squire rank, but Hugo tells him to pipe down. Then, a girl approaches. She says she's an expert at the grand tournament, but Harry doesn't believe her. What's your tournament standing then? When she can't answer, Harry scoffs. Liar, you're just trying to get close to Alistair. He really shouldn't have. She punches Harry square in the face. Fine, I'll beat you at chariot racing instead, she yells. She starts kicking Harry while Alistair just goes back to his scrolls, completely ignoring the chaos around him. At the same time, in the 5th wing, Lord Cedric is frantically trying to contact his hidden allies. His friend wonders if Arthur is going to leave the kingdom. Cedric thinks the boy is probably finished. A girl nearby whispers about the handsome new knight. He's amazing, she says, asking Cedric what his plan is. Cedric tries to act tough, but the girl sees through it. You should have formed a great alliance between houses. She lists the remaining houses, 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9. Cedric pauses, looking at her with sudden suspicion. Don't you care about the throne? He asks. She shakes her head. But then she thinks of Alistair. Potential allies for the coup are houses 4, 5, 7, 8, and 9. Leo finds Lady Aliner's lack of interest in the rankings suspicious. She claims the rankings don't matter to her, but then the image of Alistair flashes through her mind. Lady Seraphina is reeling. She can't believe she let that word, sire, slip out of her mouth, and she's losing her mind wondering what to do about Sir Arthur now. The next morning at the Royal Academy, Arthur's companions arrive at the first-tier sector. The blonde knight, Leo, scans the room, wondering if Arthur has already arrived. Leo asks if Arthur made it back to his estate safely last night, then notices him buried in ancient scrolls. Is he actually studying this early in the morning? The new recruit confirms it, and Leo can't help but smirk. He jokes that Arthur is much better at scholarwork than at monodual simulations, making Arthur break into a cold sweat. Yesterday was a total disaster. Leo was screaming for Arthur to unleash his ultimate strike, but they lost the match anyway, ruining their reputation. Leo's annoyed. Arthur promised to carry the team, and he's supposed to be a gold-rank duelist. Arthur just mutters that it's better not to get obsessed with games while his hand trembles on the controls. A girl nearby scoffs, asking if he's really willing to risk his life for a mere simulation. Leo looks completely baffled by the question. She tells Arthur to ignore him. After all, boys who treat games like life-or-death battles don't know the first thing about real power, and Arthur simply nods his thanks. As she starts another match, she suddenly slams her hands on the table, screaming about someone blocking her path. She's absolutely losing it. A proctor approaches the group, pointing to a sign that clearly says, "Raging is forbidden." Just like that, they're all kicked out of the hall. Arthur fakes a cough, claiming he would have shown his true skills if they hadn't been booted. He says he was just starting to warm up his fingers. He stands up, announcing he has another class to attend. His friends are confused, but Arthur just removes his spectacles and prepares for business. "It's nothing special," he says, "just a small matter to handle." In his mind, he knows his mission isn't just about thrashing thugs, it's about reforming the entire academy's image. He arrives at Lord Stirling's sector and asks for him. A student challenges him, claiming they were finally living a quiet life, but Arthur just stares at the boy's bandaged hand. He asks how the injury is faring. The boy nervously says it's healed enough to wiggle his fingers. Suddenly, Arthur strikes the table right between the boy's hands. The student flinches in pure terror. Arthur reminds him that if he wanted to stay safe, he should have kept his mouth shut. "Keep living like a shadow," Arthur warns. "One more complaint and you'll lose that hand for good." Next, he heads to Sector 3. He's keeping the local troublemakers under his thumb so they don't get out of line. He notices Lord Sango's gang hasn't even shown their faces at the academy lately. The atmosphere in the sector is finally improving. Now, his next target is the unruly crowd in Sector 6. Inside Sector 6, students are causing an absolute ruckus and shouting. Suddenly, a hand slams onto a desk with thunderous force, silencing the room. It's Lord Julian. He snarls that it's way too noisy and orders everyone to shut up and study. The others are stunned. Did Julian hit his head or something? Julian has a secret. Lady Genevieve is the top scholar in the kingdom. To be worthy of her, he knows he has to reach her level of brilliance. Then Lady Seraphina, the Academy Queen, calls him over. She demands he study in total silence. Julian immediately cowers and apologizes for the noise. His friends ask why he's being so bold lately. They realize that no matter what they do, they're all living under Arthur's strict control now. Seraphina is stressed, haunted by her previous encounter with Arthur. She snaps at Julian, ordering him to get over here right this second. Julian rushes over, bowing an apology. Seraphina asks if he remembers that day. Julian is confused, wondering which day she means. She reminds him and asks if he knows she didn't actually call Arthur sire. Julian claims he's aware, but he's too focused on his textbooks to care. Seraphina snaps at him again, asking if he's even paying attention to her. He insists he's listening carefully, but she's reaching her breaking point. Just then, a voice rings out. "Where is Lord Julian?" It's Arthur calling for him. Seraphina's heart sinks with pure embarrassment and insecurity. From a distance, she watches Arthur give Julian instructions. When he finally bids him goodbye, Julian returns to the conversation, looking apologetic. Julian explains he serves Arthur now. When he asks what Seraphina wanted, she coldly orders him to take off his spectacles. He obeys instantly. Infuriated, Seraphina starts thumping him with her enchanted hairbrush, venting all her rage once again. Julian keeps apologizing for leaving her talking to herself. Seraphina stops, realizing she's sweating, her makeup is melting, and she can't hit him anymore. Julian asks if he's finally forgiven. Instead, Seraphina summons a few lackeys who obey her every whim. She orders them to trample Lord Julian. They grab him by the head, apologizing even as they start stepping all over him. As she fixes her face, Seraphina fumes about Sir Arthur. How dare he act like the leader of this academy in her presence? She tells them to stop and sends them to Sector 5 to fetch Baron Jasper. Jasper arrives, surprised Julian is even still alive. Seraphina simply replies that his insolence was starting to irritate her. She asks if he remembers her proposal from that day. Jasper asks if she means the secret alliance. He's been thinking about it quite a bit. He asks why she's so intent on this path. Her answer is simple. She wants to make Arthur suffer for what he's done. Jasper suggests she could just tell her sire about it, but Seraphina snaps. That is absolutely not happening. Summoned to the hall, Leo wonders why Victor is still breathing. Alina admits his crimes simply annoyed her too much to let it slide. She brings up the secret alliance again. Leo admits he's been considering the proposal as well. When asked why she's doing this, her answer is chilling. She wants to make Alistair suffer. Leo suggests just telling her older brother, Lord Brother, but Alina knows that's not an option for this operation. Lady Seraphina realizes Arthur might actually lose his life, and that thought is simply too much for her to bear. In her mind, she's already a queen on a gilded throne, using Arthur as a literal footstool while he grovels and thanks her for the privilege. Snapping back to reality, she's irritated and demands he address her properly as Lady Seraphina from now on. Julian is absolutely stunned by her sudden arrogance and the sheer delusion of her vision. Seraphina doesn't care about his shock. She just wants to see Arthur crawling back to her side and demands Julian's assistance to make it happen right now. Julian weighs his options, thinking of the other house leaders from the 7th, 8th, and 9th wings, knowing his grip on them is fragile at best. He realizes a simple pact won't cut it. He needs Arthur Vance completely disgraced and exiled from the academy forever. Meanwhile, at an elite indoor sporting club, a powerful noble named Duke Kingston is perfecting his stroke. His associates shower him with flattery, marveling at his flawless technique. They gush over his perfect form, asking how his accuracy can be so legendary every single time he steps up to play. One jokingly asks if Kingston plans to become the next face of high-fashion sporting wear, and the Duke just laughs it off. He tells CEO Sterling he's far too old for the runway, and asks if the sharp new recruit standing nearby is their latest asset. Sterling confirms the lad is as talented as he is handsome, a real model type, just as Lady Alina enters to deliver a report on the secret project. Kingston scans the parchment, a smirk forming as he admits this Arthur Vance is truly something special. He concludes the boy is incredible and instructs Alina to arrange a private meeting with the academy's headmaster immediately. Alina asks if they'll meet at the usual tavern, and Kingston's dry response clearly gets under her skin. He continues his game, telling her to send word to Arthur. Keep pushing, because soon the Duke will handle everything else. Alina bows and departs, leaving her colleague to comment on how much the Duke seems to be enjoying this little game. The Duke simply responds that he's bored, and they need to find something more exciting to do together later. As the sun dips below the horizon, painting the sky in blood-orange hues, a secret gathering of house leaders is underway inside a dimly lit hall. Julian, head of House 5, calls the meeting to order, asking if everyone has finally arrived. Alistair of House 8 mocks the need for a roll call since there are only 5 of them, clearly unimpressed with the formality. Cedric of House 7 admits he hates being in the same room as these snakes, while Barnaby of House 4 is glued to a screen. He's rewatching the footage of Arthur's brutal victory over Lord Kim, as Sebastian of House 9 asks if this is about the new transfer. Julian confirms it and asks for their thoughts on a grand alliance against the newcomer who's shaking up their world. Cedric scoffs. He doesn't care for politics or rankings, but he has zero intention of being surpassed by anyone. At that moment, Alistair laughs it off, claiming they aren't nearly friendly enough to form a pact. He wonders why they're even here, asking if Julian is just terrified because his little friend Kim was humiliated so easily. An annoyed Julian warns Alistair that he's holding back his rage for now, but he needs to watch his mouth. Alistair doesn't flinch, provoking him further and asking what Julian plans to do if he keeps talking. Julian snaps, suggesting they settle their long-standing grudge right here and now in the hall. Barnaby immediately starts placing bets on who falls first, while Cedric thinks a little blood might actually be a good idea. Julian tries to bring the focus back, frustrated that they can't even have a civil conversation without it turning into a brawl. Sebastian agrees, while Alistair questions what the actual plan is once this alliance is supposedly formed. Sebastian suggests they at least listen to Julian's proposal, since he's the one who called this meeting in the first place. Julian is surprised. Rumors said the leader of the 9th house was a weakling, but he's never actually met the man until today. He assumed Sebastian only wanted an alliance for protection, but clearly, there's more to him than the rumors suggest. A frustrated Alistair demands Julian speak up, so he explains the threat. Arthur is seizing control of the houses at a terrifying pace. He warns them that the situation is reaching a breaking point, and they must act before it's too late. Suddenly, Cedric calls the whole thing pathetic, stating it's only natural for the strongest man to rise to the top. He stands up and walks out, refusing to waste another second on this nonsense. Meanwhile, one leader is busy checking his trade ledgers, asking how the coin will be split if they actually win. Barnaby refuses to share his gold and leaves too, followed by Alistair, who mocks Julian's poorly thought-out scheme. Julian warns Alistair one last time, reminding him that his patience is officially gone. Confident, Alistair challenges him to a duel right there, claiming a quick kill would be the perfect warm-up for his fencing drills. Sebastian steps between them, trying to calm the storm before any blood is spilled in the hall. Alistair doesn't care, spitting that Julian only thinks he's tough because he has a short fuse and no control. Adjusting his glasses, Sebastian calmly suggests they postpone the fight, looking for a way to keep the peace for now. They're definitely going to want to hear what he had to say. Meanwhile, in the Academy's common room, Lord Alistair slams his gauntlet onto the heavy oak table. He missed the mark, completely. Now it's some other poor squire's turn to strike. A friend asks how the High Council meeting went, and Alistair just scoffs. He says it was all just talk about the new transfer noble, and that the other house leaders are nothing but a pack of absolute morons. The baronet glares at his ledger, asking the squire if he dared to turn the parchment page. The boy nods, stammering an apology, but Alistair just sneers. "Why are you apologizing?" He demands another round of the coin toss. Alistair loses. Again. He grumbles that the squire is having some insane luck today. Visibly annoyed, Alistair snaps that he only owes 40 gold sovereigns. Terrified, the boy insists it's fine. He doesn't want anything from the lord. Alistair's face turns a dark shade of red. He growls that the squire better take the coin, because a winner always takes his spoils. Period. He tosses the crumpled notes at the boy and demands a rematch. Exhausted and shaking, the squire has no choice but to agree to another round. It's Alistair's turn. He misses again. He stares at his hands in pure shock, wondering why his touch is failing him so badly today. The squire quietly suggests that if the lord is off his game, they could just finish this another time. Alistair just glares, pure ice. Then, crack. Without a word, Alistair backhands the boy with his leather glove, sending him crashing onto the stone floor in a heap. Another student gasps, asking why he'd just strike the boy out of nowhere. Alistair just shrugs. His touch wasn't working before, but it sure is now. "Get up. Sit back in that chair before I lose the feel for it again," he barks at the bleeding, broken boy. In agonizing pain, the squire obeys. Alistair tells him to dry his eyes and stop whimpering before he gives him something real to cry about. He threatens another blow. The boy instinctively covers his face, trembling in total terror. Alistair just starts laughing, loud and cruel. "Look at him, he's terrified," Alistair mocks. His crony chimes in, laughing that the boy's fear is actually kind of cute. The mood shifts instantly. Alistair demands to know why the boy hasn't sat down yet. The squire just accepts it. He's already been beaten enough. He's eager to start. Now. But Alistair's eyes turn murderous when he sees the boy's hand shaking like a leaf over a simple coin game. It's too much, the squire calls out, his voice cracking. "Please, Lord Alistair, can I just back out of this?" Alistair stops. He asks if the boy is actually serious about quitting. The squire begs for mercy, promising to bring even more gold next time. Alistair laughs at the pathetic sight. Fine. He tells the boy he'll take the entire pot just to let him walk away. The squire is stunned. "All of it?" Alistair just smirks. That's how the rules work in this kingdom when you decide to tuck tail and run. He sweeps up every single coin before the boy can even blink. Total manipulation. The poor kid didn't stand a chance. He calls the boy clueless, saying they'll play again tomorrow. "I'm being kind," he claims, "as long as you bring more gold next time." As they leave the hall, a friend asks Alistair to buy some food. The bully refuses. He's investing this new capital elsewhere. His friend knows better. He's probably just going to gamble it all on the arena bets. The deceived squire is left behind, nearly in tears. He curses Alistair in his mind. Human trash. 500 sovereigns stolen just like that. He grabs his things, already plotting his bloody revenge. Later, in the West Wing, Lady Seraphina confronts Julian. She heard all about his little meeting with the Academy bullies the day before. Julian and Juliet offer a stiff greeting, but Seraphina cuts straight to the point. She tells Juliet to leave. She needs Julian alone. Now. Juliet fakes a friendly smile and exits, but inside, she's fuming. Who does that highborn girl think she is, barking orders at her? Seraphina turns on Julian. Is he just going to keep playing the fool with these other girls? Julian insists he hasn't done a thing wrong. She doesn't want excuses. There won't be an alliance for a while. The great houses have decided to just sit back and observe. Julian is confused. What are you talking about? We go back to yesterday's secret meeting of the house leaders. The Lord of the Ninth House speaks. The tribute collection is coming soon, the real reason everyone fights for the title of prefect. Duke Dragon's gang collects the gold in staggering amounts, and inevitably, the most dangerous people in the kingdom gather around them. He concludes that everyone has different goals, but the motives of men like Alistair are clear as day. Simple and straightforward. They are driven by pure greed. They want the gold, and they don't care who they have to crush to maintain their ranking. They might act like they don't care about the hierarchy, but they'll definitely strike before the tax collectors arrive to take their share. He smiles. They need to figure out what this new transfer night is really after. Conflict is coming, that's a guarantee. Watch and wait, he advises. We act after the dust settles. Back in the present, the tension in the room is thick enough to cut. Julian notes that Sir Leon of the First House ended up as the alliance leader. That's fine. He can be removed whenever they feel like it. Seraphina crosses her arms, unimpressed. She thinks Julian is just being a coward, doing absolutely nothing while their enemies move. Pathetic, she mutters, biting her lip. If he won't take action, she'll just have to handle this mess herself. Dusk falls over the city. A blonde messenger on a swift horse appears at the gates, a heavy crate strapped to the saddle. He tracks down Alistair's group. Hey, Alistair, heard your investments in the southern trade ships just tanked completely. Tough break. Alaric Thorne looks over the market and asks how the trade is going, but Julian says he pulled his gold the second the market dipped. Alaric sighs, the only noble getting crushed in both high-stakes wagering and merchant deals. Julian just laughs at his misery. The blonde offers some noble advice. Follow his lead, and Alaric might actually see some silver. But Alaric, his coffers are bone dry. He wonders what a simple courier earns and if he should try his hand at deliveries. His lackey looks on, intrigued. Is tribute day coming? Could they squeeze some gold from the lower squires? Alaric says the day is fast approaching. But the hall, pathetic. Julian gets a message and has to bolt, reminding Alaric to call him the second he earns any coin. He'll help him invest, trust him. The lackey asks Alaric if they should strike before the official tribute day arrives. It would be a disaster if they only walked away with scraps. Why settle for portions when they can take half now? Alaric agrees. He was already 10 steps ahead. The lackey asks who the first target is. Alaric crosses his arms, looking lethal. Why one at a time? They're going for the new squire from the southern kingdoms. Efficiency is key here. Since Dijon already took a heavy portion, hitting the new kid secures the rest of the gold they need immediately. A friend has a genius idea. Let's place bets. Alaric Thorne versus the new squire. Who wins the duel? The group is hooked. One asks if he can put his silver on the new kid, the ultimate underdog of the academy. Alaric asks if he's really the long shot. High risk, high reward. The payout would be legendary if the squire actually won. Alaric stands up. Suddenly, he's in the mood for blood. He heads to the practice yard for some pull-ups. From the shadows, 2 men watch him go. Is that Alaric Thorne? One asks. There are 3 of them in total. The leader confirms it. When Alaric's group arrives, they bow low, calling the men veteran knights of the underworld. Alaric asks if one is doing well. Word is he joined a mercenary company after being expelled from the academy. The veteran, arms crossed, says he did. But things are weird. Alaric's interest is piqued. What does that even mean? The veteran says his client's target is the young squire, and standing right beside him, a terrified young master, Leo. Alaric is annoyed. What is this kid doing here? Leo is drenched in a cold sweat, unable to find words. He tries to explain, but the words die in his throat. The veteran tells him to relax. He's a professional, not a butcher. He doesn't mix business with old ties. Since Alaric is his junior, he'll just give him a gentle lesson today. And Leo, he better have the gold ready. Alaric sees the whole pathetic picture now and scoffs. They're taking coin from children to beat up their bullies. Alaric mocks the entire ridiculous setup with a sneer. The veteran calls it a new venture. No hard feelings against the squires, so there is no need for the temper. Alaric bursts out laughing, a cold, mocking sound that leaves the veteran completely baffled as he stares at him. Alaric says it's hilarious. This knight is acting cocky just because he leads a band of desperate sellswords. Alaric sneers, messing with squires for a few pieces of silver. It's absolutely pathetic work for a veteran. The veteran can't believe the gall. His friend thinks Alaric has lost his mind, but Alaric isn't done yet. He drops the truth. The veteran isn't a senior anymore. He's just a dropout with no rank left to hold. Bothered, the veteran says Alaric has gotten rude. He introduces himself as Sir Cedric of the Stone Wall. Quickly, he moves a hand toward Alaric's face. He's disappointed to see Alaric so clueless these days. He was going to go easy on him, but now he has to teach him how the world really works. Alaric senses the strike. A heavy punch is coming straight for his jaw, fueled by the veteran's ego. Crack, the veteran hits him, but he's stunned. Alaric actually leaned into the punch. He threw his face at it. Why the hell would he do that? With the fist still pressed against his cheek, Alaric just smiles. Your punch is soft, Cedric. You really think you have something to teach me? Then, Alaric fires back. Boom, a direct strike to the veteran's gut. You've become a fat pig, haven't you? Cedric screams in pure agony. Alaric laughs, a dark and sadistic sound. He can't even sink his fist in because of all the grease. He punches him again. How deep does he have to go to find muscle? Cedric is howling, nearly collapsing. Alaric leans in close. Want to know something? Punching a tub of lard like you is honestly revolting. Exercise a bit. I can't stand the feeling of my fist hitting your gross body. Then, bam, a face-shattering finale. The veteran hits the ground like a sack of stones. His men are frozen in absolute, paralyzing shock. The boy who hired them is shaking, paralyzed by fear. Alaric looms over him. Don't act tough just because you're big. Alaric sneers, claiming the brute is only big because he gorges himself like a beast, leaving his squad absolutely stunned by his suicidal mouth. He calls the rogue knight a walking sack of lard and dares him to swing. His friends are shaking, whispering that he's finally crossed the point of no return. They're calling him a madman, asking what's possessed him, but Alaric just glares back, accusing these thugs of trying to hunt him for his gold. He figures if a student has enough coin to feed 3 fat hogs, then there must be a massive fortune hidden away somewhere. He growls that if the boy had that much wealth, he should have just handed it over, then tells his crew to stay back. This loot belongs to him alone. The mercenaries curse Alaric's name, unable to believe he's gambling his life over a few silver pieces. But the boy doesn't care. Without a word, the squire lunges at the nearest veteran. The rogue knight sees him coming, realizing Alaric is completely possessed by pure, unadulterated greed. Boom, Alaric buries a fist deep into the knight's gut, laughing that, he's absolutely doing this for the gold and nothing else. The force is insane. The knight literally spits blood. Alaric just smirks, saying everything will be fine as long as the payout is right. Suddenly, another veteran slams a headbutt into Alaric's temple. The blow sends him spiraling, but he catches himself, eyes burning with irritation. Digging his leather boots into the dirt, he charges at full speed toward the panicked knight, launching a brutal knee directly into his jaw. Crack! The impact deforms the man's face instantly, while Alaric just stands there with a terrifying, twisted grin on his face. That's when another thug grabs Alaric from behind, locking his arms. One of Alaric's squad runs to help, but Alaric isn't having it. "I don't need help," he roars, leaping backward with everything he's got, catching the veteran completely off guard. He slips the hold like a ghost and drives a jagged elbow strike right under the man's chin. Brutal. He follows up with a lightning-fast spinning hook, landing a perfect strike to the bully's temple that drops him like a stone. Out cold. The noble student who paid the thugs is watching from the shadows, paralyzed with fear and drenched in a cold sweat. Drunk on adrenaline, Alaric turns his gaze to the noble. "Hand over the gold," he snarls, "unless you want to die right here." Panicked and screaming, the student bolts into the woods. Alaric, looking like a total lunatic, gives chase, laughing like a demon. "You really think you can outrun me?" he shouts. But as he chases the boy, a veteran knight steps out with a heavy iron mace. Alaric spots the weapon and flexes, bracing his arms for the impact. For a split second, he's actually worried. He didn't expect a countermove. The knight curses him, shouting that Alaric picked a fight with the wrong guild today. But then, a shadow appears behind the bully. One of Alaric's crew lands a crushing blow directly to the knight's spine. Alaric grins. Guess a little help isn't so bad after all. Time to finish this. The veteran can't even process what's happening as Alaric winds up for the final blow. He puts every ounce of strength into a massive punch to the man's jaw. The power is staggering. The sound of the impact echoes. The massive knight is sent flying through the air. Panting, Alaric looks around. "Where's the little noble? Where'd my gold go?" The boy is gone. Vanished. Alaric grumbles that the kid is a lot faster than he looked. Clutching his head, he mutters that if the boy doesn't show up at the academy tomorrow, he's lost his payday. His squire asks if he's okay. They're worried. Those 3 thugs weren't just commoners. They were dangerous mercenaries from the underworld guilds. Alaric just scoffs. "Those losers, just posers playing knight. Don't sweat it, my connections are way higher than some street trash." The next morning at the Royal Academy, Alaric is strolling through the halls, dreaming about the roast swans served at the Great Hall. He tells Milo to enjoy the feast while they can. Suddenly, Marcus the blonde noble blocks their path, looking serious. Marcus demands a private talk. Alaric snaps back, "Make it fast. If this is a waste of time, you're both dead men." Marcus ignores the threat. He heard the new guy only wanted to study and wasn't interested in the academy's rankings. Then he leans in, asking if Alaric is actually planning to seize control of every first-year house in the kingdom. Alaric is genuinely lost. "Why the hell would I do that?" he asks. Hugh chimes in, saying everyone is already convinced he's coming for them. Alaric slams his hands onto Hugh's shoulders. "Do you have 2 lives? Because I'm pretty sure I told you you'd die if you bored me." Marcus grabs Alaric's wrist, refusing to back down. "This isn't boring. You're the leader of 4 houses now. The tithe is coming." He changes the subject, assuming Alaric only came to this prestigious academy for the gold. Alaric just blinks, totally confused. "What are you talking about? What tithe?" He honestly has no idea about these operational costs they keep mentioning. Is this about the snack money for the feast? The leftover coin from the class president? Is that what you're crying about? One of the students who used to be a punching bag for the knights walks up. "It's not about snacks, my lord," he whispers. He calls Alaric master and starts to explain the dark truth. On the surface, they call it operational costs to make it sound legal. But the reality is much darker. It's not legitimate tax, it's pure extortion gold, bled from every student in the academy. The academy fees, they claim, are legitimate. Pure extortion, just piles of stolen gold taken from the other students. So within the academy, they call it tribute coin. It's basically blood money paid so one noble house doesn't crush the other. In the end, that gold just lines the pockets of the house lords. Dean finally realizes what that bully meant about the laws of the sword. He looks suspicious. Is this the twisted rule they were all talking about? The explanation gets even worse. The lords rank everyone like cattle to maintain order. And if you happen to rule over more than one wing, the tax doubles. That's why everyone is hungry to be the head of St. Jude's. The kid asks if Dean plans to collect 4 times more than the others. He warns that, before Dean sees a single copper, every night in this school will be coming for his head. Miles thanks the boy for the intel, but then he asks, with a look of pure innocence, why the kid is still hanging around. The student begs them to shield his group. Since Dean's crew are now the biggest targets in the academy, he needs a guardian. Before he can even finish his plea, Dean shoves him aside. The guy clearly doesn't get it. Dean isn't playing their games. He looks his friends in the eye and drops the hammer. This whole business of shaking down students, it ends today. Miles and Henry are completely speechless, but the blonde knight speaks up. He says they can't just stop the flow of gold. It's a ladder, see. Part of the first-year tribute goes straight to the second years, then up to the third-year lords. Miles warns him that cutting the cash flow is like declaring war on the entire academy. Even Dean can't fight a whole school. Dean admits the risk is massive, but then he remembers his true mission. He's here to put an end to this rot. He can't make a habit of ignoring the evil happening right in front of him. Ben heads out first, just as Jim arrives. Jim tells Dean someone important wants to see him. Dean is beyond annoyed. Why is it always something? The same cycle, over and over. He gives Jim a look that could kill. If this is a waste of time, you're dead. Sometime later, they head toward the cafeteria. Dean asks if the other houses are gathering an army to jump him. Jim laughs. Not even 10 elite knights could touch him. It'd take 100 at least. Just then, Dean spots a girl and asks if she's the one. Jim confirms it, that Lady Susan. Dean is irritated. Does Jim want to die today? Susan stares them down and demands he release Jim immediately. Our boy doesn't budge. Susan crosses her arms, repeating the command. She's staying polite, but there's a sharp edge to her voice. She asks if he's deaf. Let go of him. Dean just stands there, totally confused by her demanding attitude. Susan sighs. She says Jim might deserve a brutal beating for his crimes, but she's the only one allowed to punish him. Dean is suspicious. He has no clue what her deal is, but according to school law, Class 6 is his territory. That means he can do whatever he wants with the students, Jim included. Susan isn't having any of it. She walks right up to them and grabs Jim's hand. Staring Dean down, she declares that she is far above those petty rules. She tells him to stop playing leader and let go. Then, she pulls hard, trying to snatch Jim away. Dean just tightens his grip on Jim's wrist. This whole conversation is nonsense. He isn't letting go of anyone. Frustrated, Susan calls him an arrogant jerk. Dean doesn't skip a beat. He tells her they're the ones who are arrogant. Elsewhere, a man is preaching to 3 terrified students. He tells them they've strayed from the path, becoming obsessed with gold. He says their greed has disappointed him. Karma is coming, and they're about to become puppets of the devil himself. But then he claims he's the one who will save them from their sins. Personally, the students are shaking in their boots. He tells them he's not going to kill them. This is Lord Julian, the second-year leader of the House of Path. I'm only going to beat you within an inch of your lives, he says calmly. His lieutenant, Sir Gareth, tells them to pay up. Peter, watching with his arms crossed, says the whole thing sounds terrifying. He asks if Gareth is always this violent. Gareth just shrugs. He only gets like this when he feels like trash. Dean asks about the total haul they've collected. The guy with the glasses gestures, 3 million in gold coins from the second-year students. Peter asks if they're splitting it. The guy confirms they are. Peter is grinning now. He's excited. He really wants to crush that new transfer student. The bookkeeper asks what happened yesterday with the veteran brawl. Peter says in that situation, Julian wouldn't have held back. Looking terrifying, he asks if Julian always pummels people like this. The lieutenant just shrugs, says he only does it when he's feeling like absolute trash. Curious, Dominic asks how much tribute they've squeezed out of the second-year squires so far, since they're the ones running the show. The guy in spectacles flashes a sign, 3 million gold coins. Penelope asks if they're just splitting all that loot among themselves. The guy confirms they do. Hearing that, Dominic gets a wicked grin. He's hyped and says he can't wait to finally crush that new transfer student. Then the bully with the glasses brings up yesterday's mess. He asks what really went down during that clash between the veteran knights. Penelope just sighs. She knows the deal. In a situation like that, Jax was never going to hold himself back. He's just not built that way. Total chaos at the academy. Sir Alistair is absolutely laying into the younger students, all while claiming his mentor, Sir Baldwin, always preaches patience. The irony? Baldwin is right there, currently pummeling kids himself. And why? Just because they were a single day late on their protection dues. What a joke. Shifting gears, Arthur watches the scene and asks if everything's all right. The student with the monocle tells him not to sweat it. These veterans aren't even real magic apprentices. They're just thugs boasting about a fake noble gang to extort coin from the weak. After finishing his lesson, the bald brute Baldwin looks back with a straight face. He sighs, saying it's not easy to walk the righteous path of the divine order. He looks right at Arthur, giving him some unsolicited advice. Learn to stay on the path, boy. Walk it with confidence or don't walk it at all. The audacity of this guy is unreal. Meanwhile, Alistair is dreaming big. He's thinking about seizing control of the entire first-year class, but there's one major obstacle in his way. He needs to crush the transfer student, Arthur, first. Baldwin loves the idea. He tells him not to wait. If you want power, you take it. Now. He points at the poor kids groveling on the floor, claiming they're just suffering from the karma of being slow. Yeah, okay, whatever you say, pal. With a look that could chill bone, he gives them an ultimatum. You have until tomorrow to bring the gold. If not, things get weird. He tells them they'd better shave their heads, along with their worldly desires, before showing their faces again. He's basically demanding they become forced monks. Apparently, his fists aren't a big enough punishment for their sins. He wants those heads shaved until they shine like mirrors, absolutely unhinged. Change of pace. Arthur is walking calmly when Alistair has a sudden, brilliant idea. Baldwin mentions he heard the bakery just put out a fresh batch of spiced meat pies. Arthur asks if he can grab one, and the bald guy actually says yes. He invites him along for a casual chat like they weren't just terrorizing people. The mood swing is wild. Back to the main courtyard, and it's a total mess. Two people are literally playing tug-of-war with poor Julian. Lady Seraphina tells the new guy to let go, but he's not budging. Julian is caught in the middle, literally getting jostled around. But get this, he's actually wondering if he's finally become a main character. He thinks being fought over feels actually pretty great. Then things get awkward. Seraphina tries to pull him with everything she's got, and Julian's arm accidentally brushes against her. Well, her chest. She's shouting at Arthur for being so stubborn, but Julian, he's in another world. With a look of pure bliss, he thinks he could literally die right now and be at peace. Arthur looks at Julian's face and is just confused. Why are you making that creepy expression? He asks. Then reality hits. Seraphina finally realizes exactly where Julian's arm is resting. The look on her face, pure, unadulterated disgust, total repulsion. Julian starts sweating, knowing he's about to meet his maker. Without a word, she spins, bam, a precise strike right to his neck. She folds him like a lawn chair and tosses him aside with terrifying strength. She doesn't even look at him, just tells him he has 3 seconds to vanish before she ends him. She starts counting. 2. Julian is desperately begging for a moment to explain, but he's out of luck. 1. He takes off like a shot, screaming his head off. But here's the kicker. He's actually running with a huge blush, clearly enjoying the contact he just had. Guy is a lost cause. Seraphina turns her attention back to Arthur. She says she doesn't care about that creep Julian anymore. She had a real reason for calling Arthur out here. Arthur is just standing there, completely lost. Suddenly, she lunges forward and grabs him by the collar of his jacket. She slams him hard against a stone pillar. She's holding on tight, trying to find the words to say something important, while Arthur just watches her, totally unfazed. She's blushing like crazy now, getting way too close to his face. Arthur just asks, "So, what's this about?" Then Seraphina suddenly drops her head. Arthur is baffled. In her head, Seraphina is trying to look into his eyes to dominate his warrior spirit, but she just can't do it. Her heart is slamming against her ribs, and she has no idea why. Arthur, being the densest guy alive, hears a weird thumping sound. He literally asks her if there's some construction work or masonry going on nearby. Seriously, Arthur. He grabs her wrist, telling her he's busy and to just spit it out. Flustered and red-faced, she accidentally blurs out, "My lord." Again, Arthur is just staring at her like she's lost her mind. She squeezes her eyes shut, dying of embarrassment. She remembers the last time she called him that, but back then, she was talking about someone else entirely. Arthur actually remembers. He mentions that he knows she was talking about Lord Cedric that day. He asks if that's really the only reason she dragged him out here. She grips his jacket even tighter, insisting that this is important to her. Arthur still doesn't get it. He's wondering why it matters so much. He even starts doubting if she's using that formal title because she somehow figured out his true, ancient age. Seraphina snaps, calling him arrogant. She tells him he clearly doesn't realize who he's dealing with since he's the new kid in the kingdom. She warns him that with one word from her brother, the entire academy would mobilize against him. He's playing with fire. She tells him he's clueless and admits, almost, that she only went easy on him because he's handsome. She stops herself just in time, though. "I won't be that nice anymore," she fumes, tightening her grip. She tells him she could have him removed in an instant. Arthur just sighs and peels her hands off him. His only concern, "You're wrinkling my clothes." Seraphina is absolutely stunned by his lack of fear. Extremely shy and confused, she asks what he thinks he's doing. Arthur's response, he calmly tells her he's restraining her. She's outraged. Why can't she fight back? He tells her flat out that she's not going to be able to do anything. She demands he let her go, warning him that he's making a massive mistake and that her brother will kill him. Arthur doesn't even blink. He just looks at her and says, "Fine, bring your brother here then." Seraphina is frozen. She keeps blathering about her brother, so Arthur just tells her to call him. He wanted to meet the big boss of the school anyway. She can't believe her ears. Arthur's gone totally mad. She warns him straight up. Meeting her brother is a death sentence, but Julian, he totally misses the point. He jokes that she's just using her family name as a shield, but Isabella stands her ground. They cannot meet. Julian isn't backing down, though. He demands her contact Crystal, or he's not letting her go. She blushes, asking if he plans to keep her prisoner forever, before finally whispering for him to just hold her hand instead. Suddenly, the mood shifts. Sir Cedric, the Academy's second-year captain, marches over with his squire and Alaric. "That's the newcomer," Alaric sneers, while Cedric realizes he's looking at Lady Isabella of House Sterling. Cedric looks disgusted. He calls their little moment vulgar and demands to know what they're doing on sacred academy soil. He starts a whole lecture about the pursuit of knightly knowledge, but Julian cuts him off mid-sentence. "Hey, Chrome Dome," Julian says, completely unfazed. Alaric loses it, and Silas knows exactly what's coming next. Cedric's jaw drops. Did this kid just comment on his head? Julian's mind flashes back to his old master. His old boss used to treat every single white hair like a precious relic, forbidding anyone from even touching them. Cedric calls him a brat, asking if Julian's own father doesn't also have a head full of snowy white hairs. Thinking back, Julian realizes he's never actually seen a white hair before, and his old boss just walked away. His master's final order that day was to throw out everything meant for the scrap heap, but Julian didn't get the hint. Back in reality, the newcomer offers a fake apology, insisting he wasn't mocking the captain's lack of hair. But honestly, the damage is done. At that exact moment, Alaric starts howling with uncontrollable laughter. He shouts that he loves this kid, finding Julian's audacity way more entertaining than his grumpy squire does. Through tears of laughter, the bully reveals that Cedric supposedly chose the bald look, even if it looks tragic. "He's still a cue ball, though," Alaric yells. Silas whispers to Julian that his boss is actually just losing his hair. Julian realizes the truth and offers a half-hearted apology, which only makes the situation even more awkward. Alaric, living for the gossip, shouts to everyone that the great Sir Cedric is indeed suffering from hair loss. Cedric is vibrating with pure rage now, while the second-year squire with the glasses tries to step in. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 waves them off, telling the freshman to go play somewhere else before things get ugly. Julian isn't moving. He asks who gave this guy the right to bark orders. Isabella whispers that this is Sir Cedric of the upper class. Cedric steps forward, dropping the act, and tells them to vanish before he stops being merciful. Julian just shrugs. I was here first. If anyone's leaving this garden, it's you, cue ball. Isabella is freaking out. She asks if Julian has a literal death wish for talking to a knight like that. Cedric is stunned by the boy's audacity. Alaric, he's doubled over again, calling the new guy a complete lunatic. The captain's expression turns dark. He tells Julian that since he's so brave, he can face the consequences. Panic mode. Isabella grabs her communication stone and calls her brother, addressing him as Lord Arthur. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 pales. He tells Cedric to calm down immediately. Isabella Sterling never calls her brother unless it's serious. He knows she'd never call for her brother's protection lightly. The mood in the garden just plummeted. Isabella gives them a cold, confident smirk. He's on his way, she says, watching the seniors freeze. Even Julian is curious if the legendary Lord Arthur is actually showing up to bail them out. Isabella stays perfectly calm, telling the person on the other end she's hanging up now. Sure enough, her stone shows a connected call to her brother. The tension is thick enough to cut with a sword. She looks the seniors in the eye, still holding Julian's hand, and asks if they have any more orders for her. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 whispers to Cedric that fighting House Sterling is a suicide mission, even if they could win the duel. The mood flips instantly. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 starts waving and smiling, telling Isabella she's free to go and tell her brother hello. Isabella isn't having it. Tell him yourself, I don't have time to bother with useless peasants like you. As they walk away, 𝒊𝒏𝒈 admits that her brother's reputation is the only thing that kept their heads on their shoulders. He asks Cedric if he's all right, but the captain is clearly beyond all right at this point. A murderous aura erupts from Cedric. Do I look okay to you? He growls, his face contorted in fury. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 gulps, realizing the captain is absolutely livid. Cedric realizes Alaric chose a very interesting ally in Julian. He vows to settle the score later, but Alaric is just annoyed that his little show ended so soon. Sir Julian locks eyes with the brute. He's out of time. Letting this rival escape now would be a massive mistake. Lord Percival's gaze turns predatory. He's reached his limit. There is no way he's letting Julian walk away tonight. The squire with the spectacles feels it. Percival's aura is shifting into something dark. A senior noble asks what he's thinking. You said you'd let them leave in peace, but Percival just stares, completely ignoring the reminder. This is going to be magnificent, Percival grins. He lunges at them like a wolf hungry for the hunt. He's closing the gap fast. The others haven't even noticed him yet, but Julian's warrior instincts are screaming. In a flash, Julian grabs Lady Susan by the waist, forcefully pulling her out of the path of danger. He swings her aside just as Percival's full-speed charge whistles past. A perfect, split-second dodge. What just happened? Susan gasps. Percival doesn't stop, immediately resetting his stance for a brutal close-quarters assault. He launches himself at Julian, a terrifying, manic smile plastered across his face. Percival throws a heavy right. Julian slips it easily. Percival twists, trying to slam his left forearm into Julian's head. Another miss. Percival spins into a third strike, but Julian is like a ghost. He just isn't there. Time for a lesson. Julian counters with a stinging palm strike right across Percival's arrogant face. Percival staggers, stunned, but seconds later, that grin is back. He throws a left hook with everything he's got. Julian dodges again. He's wondering who this brute is. A normal man would have been unconscious after that slap. He glances back at Susan. He needs to create some distance before things get truly messy. Percival's right-hand man rushes over. He knows his lord has lost control again. This is going to be a disaster. If the lady gets caught in the crossfire, it's over. Percival swings another right. Julian ducks it. A spinning left punch follows, but Julian traps the arm, completely neutralizing Percival's momentum. There's the opening. Percival shifts, trying to land a direct kick to Julian's chest. Julian blocks it effortlessly. The force shoves Percival back. "Why are you only defending?" Percival growls. Julian just stares at him, catching his breath. The castle courtyard is eerily quiet. The squire tries to grab Susan's arm. "Let go," she snaps. "I can handle myself perfectly fine, thank you." Julian smirks. She's got fire. Percival is frustrated. "Aren't you a bit weird? Where's the fun in just blocking?" Seriously, who fights like this? Just defending? Percival is losing his mind. Julian doesn't answer. He sees Susan is safe and decides it's finally time to focus on his own fight. He's waiting for his reinforcements. Percival stretches his muscles. "I've heard the rumors about you, newcomer. Let's see if they're true." But before he can finish, Julian explodes forward with a lightning-fast right. Percival barely blocks it. "You're fast," he laughs, charging back in for a heavy counterattack. But Julian is faster. Before Percival can even think, a sidekick slams into his guard with incredible force. They both back off. Percival's arm is throbbing. He's genuinely shocked by the sheer speed and power here. No more talking. Julian lunges again, burying a kick deep into Percival's midsection. Percival blocks with both arms, but the impact sends him skidding backward across the stone floor. Adrenaline is pumping now. "Brutal," Percival spits, steadying himself. Julian just calmly adjusts his tunic collar. "How's the arm?" Julian asks. "You doing okay over there?" Percival looks down, confused. He says it's nothing, but then he sees it. When he pulls back his sleeve, the skin is purple. It feels just like the blow he took from the veterans. Julian smiles. "Better let that heal up." Julian starts unfastening his heavy cloak. "Because you're about to take a lot more hits, Percival." Susan's eyes go wide. "Sir Julian, why are you stripping in the middle of the courtyard?" She's blushing furiously. "How can you just undress in such a crowded place?" Julian pauses. "Crowded." He turns around, and a massive crowd of noble students has gathered to watch the show. The ladies are whispering about how handsome he is. "I hope they don't fight," one cries, blaming Julian. Julian sighs. He was finally trying to handle this properly. Percival just smiles. "I felt your strength and I'm impressed, but let's call it a day." He promises a real duel soon. Julian is left standing there, totally bewildered. Percival just walks away, frustrated but intrigued. He shoves the noble ladies aside, ignoring their protests as they demand to know why he's being so aggressive and shoving people out of his path. Things could go south fast. Her friend senses a massive aura coming from him, and the noble student with glasses just scoffs. It's a pity, really. But the glasses-wearing noble tells our new transfer student not to sweat it. They'll be crossing swords again very soon. Alaric just adjusts his tunic, looking bored. "You've been yapping since the moment I got here," he says, staring right at the guy. "Next time, bring the whole squad. Fighting you losers one by one is honestly just a chore." Ouch. Hearing that, the second-year noble, Gideon, absolutely loses it. He's seeing red. "You little bastard," he screams, charging at Alaric. How dare a first-year squire talk down to a superior like that? But suddenly, a heavy hand drops onto his shoulder. It's 𝒊𝒏𝒈, their leader. He tells Gideon to stay his hand and show some mercy. He reminds him that as a senior knight, he has to keep his cool when dealing with lowly freshmen. For now, they're backing off. Gideon looks ashamed, apologizing to his lord. He claims that thanks to 𝒊𝒏𝒈's wisdom, he's managed to suppress his rage. Apparently, he still hasn't fully embraced the path of the sword. Even the big, bald squire admits he was acting arrogant and lacked compassion. Alaric is standing there like, what are these weirdos even talking about? Total confusion. Meanwhile, Lady Beatrice rushes over to him. "Are you out of your mind?" she yells. She warns him that those guys are the elite second-year leaders. He's in serious trouble. Alaric just tilts his head. Wait, you're saying it was dangerous for them, right? Beatrice stares at him, deadpan. No, you idiot, it was dangerous for you. But our boy isn't sweating it at all. Beatrice stands there, hands on her hips and face turning bright red. She doesn't know if he's brave or just incredibly cocky. Sure, he's strong, but the upperclassmen in this kingdom are on a whole different level. She turns away, quietly thanking him for the save, but then she snaps. Why the hell did he grab her waist with so much force? Alaric blinks, closing his eyes as he offers a clumsy apology. He honestly didn't think holding her that tightly would actually hurt her. Beatrice screams at him that she is not counting that as a hug, not in a million years. Trying to move on, Alaric asks where her brother is. Beatrice finally comes clean. She lied about him being there. She saw Alaric being a reckless hothead with the second years and had to make something up just to save his skin. She tells him he almost got pulverized by that monk knight before even meeting her brother. Meanwhile, Alaric is busy imagining himself punching her brother out. He catches himself, realizing that telling a girl you want to deck her brother is probably a terrible move, but Beatrice cuts him off. She warns him that the new squire will be a dead man if he crosses her brother, quickly snapping that she doesn't actually care though. Ignoring her own feelings, she tells Arthur to forget her brother and focus on surviving the first-year academy trials. She mentions the Shadow Alliance is also hunting him before walking off, claiming they're even now since she saved his life. Don't you dare follow me, she commands, and Arthur, still processing everything, honestly has no intention of doing so. Our hero is left standing there completely baffled. Was that a threat, or did she just save him because she's worried? Meanwhile, the girl is walking away with a bright red face, cursing how reckless and annoying he is for making her panic. She can't understand it. Why is she so obsessed with what happens to that guy? It makes zero sense to her. Later, inside the garrison, Sir Cedric enters and demands to know if Arthur has shown his face yet. His soldier says it's obvious he's hiding, then asks about Cedric's bandaged arm. That injury looks pretty serious. Cedric just grins, saying it'll heal in a few days. He actually likes the new guy weak, but he still landed a hit. But business comes first. Cedric needs to squeeze every gold coin from the peasants and find Arthur as soon as possible. He barks at the head prefect, ordering the boy to run to him, and the terrified student immediately obeys. Cedric demands Arthur's home address. The prefect stammers out a confirmation that he has the records in his possession. The order is simple. Collect the protection tax within 7 days. The head prefect looks like he's seen a ghost. A friend tries to intervene, pointing out that the laws state the gold isn't due until next week. Cedric is breaking protocol. Cedric doesn't blink. That's exactly why he's moving the date, and he's not the least bit worried about getting caught. He fears no one, not the instructors, and certainly not the law. He tells them he's completely untouchable. The prefect tries to argue that they can't just rewrite the academy rules on a whim, but he's fighting a losing battle. Cedric cuts him off with a smirk. Let's play a game of rock, paper, scissors. He forces the terrified student to play. First round, Cedric throws scissors and the student throws rock. Cedric loses, but he immediately calls for another round. This time, Cedric's scissors beat the student's paper. The prefect starts to complain about how insane this is for deciding taxes. But Cedric isn't listening. He just looms over him, talking about a brutal punishment strike to the forehead. Hovering his finger inches from the student's face, Lord Dorian smirks, clarifying that this little game wasn't about the gold tax. It was for something much worse. It was a finger flick duel, and he commands the class president to lean in. Trembling, the boy obeys, moving his head toward the bully's waiting hand. Dorian presses his palm firmly against the student's forehead, whispering that the strike is now fully charged, pure, terrifying tension filling the room. In the back, a classmate whispers in horror, watching how Dorian bends his finger back at an impossible angle, wondering if the guy is even human. Then, snap, Dorian releases his finger with brutal force. a crack echoing as he slams it into the president's forehead with the weight of a hammer. The entire class freezes in absolute shock as the president collapses, clutching his throbbing head and fighting back a flood of humiliated tears. Crumpled on the cold floor, the boy looks up to see Dorian staring down like a demon, casually announcing he's ready for another round of Squire's Gambit. Meanwhile, our protagonist, Arthur, stalks through the stone halls of the academy, frustrated that he couldn't track down the elusive Lord Blackwell. It would have been a breeze to crush those second-year squires, but now he's forced to find Blackwell's brother to settle this debt collection once and for all. He thinks back to Dorian, that massive brute he faced earlier, and how the guy actually managed to stay standing after taking a direct strike to the jaw. Dorian isn't like the typical weaklings Arthur has flattened. He's got a frame built like a warhorse, and you can see that raw power just by the thickness of his neck. But honestly, size is one thing, but Dorian's sheer endurance is what's actually freakish. Or maybe Arthur is just getting a bit rusty after his long hiatus. He reflects on the fact that he hasn't handled his blades or his fists properly lately, having spent too many months resting in the shadows of the kingdom. But now, he can feel the rust shaking off. Cracking his knuckles, a dark excitement washes over him at the thought of breaking Dorian until he finally snaps. Later that evening, under the flickering lanterns of a dark alley, a lone student named Cedric is desperately trying to send a messenger bird, but it's no use. He curses under his breath, feeling betrayed by the mercenaries who promised to make Dorian kneel and beg for mercy. It was all a pathetic lie. Now, Cedric is too terrified to even show his face at the academy, wandering the streets looking for any hero or monster willing to help him survive. He remembers the whispers at school about the new knight in town, a guy whose presence alone has completely flipped the hierarchy of the castle. Students were saying the usual bullies don't even dare to walk the halls anymore, and those who do are acting like scared mice whenever he's around. Cedric wonders if this mysterious Arthur is truly that powerful, and if his own life would finally change if Arthur took control of their entire house. He starts cooking up a desperate plan to offer his remaining coin to the new guy to take Dorian's head. It feels like his only shot at survival. Suddenly, a voice booms from the shadows. "Talking about me, were you?" It's Dorian, appearing like a ghost in the darkness. Paralyzed with fear, Cedric barely gets a word out before Dorian's hand flashes forward, a brutal slap sending him spinning into the dirt. Dorian towers over him, telling him to start running, mocking him by saying they're finally heading to their ultimate destination together. Cedric screams the bully's name, begging for just 1 minute of mercy, but his voice cracks with pure, unadulterated terror as he crawls away. Surprisingly, Dorian stops. He laughs, saying it's a good thing he hit the brakes, while Cedric frantically admits he's made a massive mistake. With a gaze that could freeze fire, Dorian asks if this is all just a game to him, mocking the boy for crying like he's at some twisted carnival. The next morning at the academy, the lecture hall is buzzing with talk of ancient ballistics and the efforts of legendary mathematicians. In one corner, Alistair is explaining weapon theory to a blonde squire, insisting that every blade and mace follows the same laws of physics. You have to calculate weight, distance, and the perfect lethal angle, but the squire is impatient, asking if he can just start swinging his bat now. Alistair shuts him down immediately. There's an order to war, and you don't touch a weapon until you've mastered the formula behind the strike. Across the room, Lord Julian is throwing a victory celebration after beating Arthur in a Latin quiz, looking smugger than a king on his throne. A noble girl leans in close to Arthur, blushing as she mentions she gave him a hint, but our boy is completely clueless and says he saw nothing. She pouts, reminding him the hint was about the private training he promised her, but Arthur is so dense he thought she was talking about a literal gym. Watching from the side, a friend sighs, wondering how Arthur could be a legendary fighter but still lose an elementary quiz to a guy like Julian. Julian tells the new guy to hit the books harder, but Arthur just presses a thumb to Julian's forehead, telling him not to get cocky or he'll lose those glasses. Alistair asks why Julian even wandered into their classroom for a quiz, while the blonde squire wonders if everyone is becoming a bit too friendly lately. But the laughter dies instantly as the heavy doors creak open. The room goes cold as Dorian, the ruthless leader of the fourth house, strides inside. Looking dead serious, Alistair stands his ground, demanding to know exactly what business a wolf like Dorian has in their territory. Watching them, Mia is stuck in her own head. She's thinking about how Derek claimed he'd been hitting the books and studying nonstop. But the reality? Pretty embarrassing. He just lost to Leo in a basic primary school quiz, making her wonder what Derek has actually been doing. Leo's acting all smug now, telling the new guy he needs to study harder. Derek loses it, grabbing the kid's forehead and telling him to drop the attitude. He tells him to take off those glasses and try that again. Miles is just confused. Why did Leo even come to their hall for a quiz in the first place? He starts wondering if they're getting a bit too cozy, which earns him a tease from the blonde about being jealous. Miles suggests they should actually study. But then Hugo spots trouble. It's Dominic, the feared leader of the Fourth Order, and he looks like he's in a seriously deadly mood. Arthur stood there, stunned. Was the infamous Lord Alaric actually here to start a bloody feud? Beside him, the girl's expression went cold. She knew Alaric was a total loose cannon. Rumor had it that Lord Alaric was the most reckless noble in the entire Citadel Academy. The second he reached the group, he demanded a word with the new transfer student, Cedric. But there was a problem, no empty chairs. Alaric's eyes locked onto Julian. "Get up," he barked. Then, with a sneer, he told Julian not to test his patience and to clear out. Julian glanced at his friends, heart hammering. He knew he'd get crushed in a real fight, but if he just obeyed like a dog, he'd be labeled a coward forever. He'd spent years building his reputation with blood and sweat. He realized right then, he couldn't just back down like a peasant. Not today. Defying the Academy's biggest bully, Julian asked why he should move. The blonde girl's eyes lit up. Julian was being brave, even though Alaric looked ready to end him. Alaric just flashed a wide, terrifying grin. He raised his hand, looking like he was about to flatten the only student daring enough to challenge his authority. Drenched in cold sweat, Julian shouted that he wasn't afraid. He claimed his reflexes were top tier. Honestly, he was terrified, but he stood his ground. Suddenly, Alaric started laughing. "Relax, kid," he said. He wasn't going to hit him. He just wanted to settle this with a quick game of shield sword arrow. Relieved and feeling a bit foolish, Julian laughed along. He thought he was safe since it was just a game. They played, and Alaric threw sword while Julian chose shield. Julian lost. Still smiling, he closed his eyes and conceded. Since he lost the match, he'd step aside so the Lord could speak with the newcomer. He felt proud. He wasn't a coward, he just lost a fair game. Julian thought he'd dodged a massive bullet, believing his honor was still intact as he walked away. But as Julian turned to leave, Alaric's heavy hand clamped down on his shoulder. It was like a vice grip. Julian turned back, confused. Wham! Alaric delivered a brutal, open-handed strike across Julian's face. "The loser's penalty!" Alaric roared as the force of the blow sent the boy spinning through the air. Julian hit the stone floor, broken both physically and mentally. Miles whispered in horror that Alaric's strength was even more monstrous than the legends said. Unfazed, the bully pulled up a chair and sat down across from Cedric. He reminded the protagonist that he promised he'd be back for a reckoning. Cedric didn't flinch. He just asked if they were going to fight now, then apologized because he really needed to finish his ancient rune quiz first. Surprisingly, Alaric agreed. He needed a breather too, but since a duel was inevitable, he proposed a condition, a little warm-up game they called Crown Flip. It was a simple, high-stakes game, hitting a gold sovereign off the top of a heavy grimoire. A test of precision and nerves before the real violence started. Meanwhile, across the courtyard, a student in silver spectacles asked his companion if the High Council had contacted them yet. The student, Sebastian, mentioned they could use the abandoned cathedral for their business. The spectacle-wearing noble told him to drop the formal talk since they were alone. Sebastian refused. He insisted on maintaining the strict school hierarchy, even in private. He was old school like that, order above everything else. The noble told him to stop posing like he was sitting in an invisible throne. Sebastian simply replied that he was maintaining his core strength. He couldn't lose muscle mass. Shifting gears, the noble asked if Sebastian had actually seen the new student, 𝒊𝒏𝒈, in a real scrap. He wanted an honest assessment of his skills. Sebastian admitted that 𝒊𝒏𝒈 had completely overwhelmed Baron 𝒊𝒐𝒍. The kid had talent, no doubt, but Sebastian suspected he was holding back his true power. He noted that 𝒊𝒏𝒈 moved like a master, but his posture was strange, messy almost. He didn't keep his guard up like a trained knight should. Then the senior student asked about Lord 𝒊𝒈. Sebastian sighed. 𝒊𝒈 was a different beast entirely. He just bulldozed through everything with sheer, raw physical power. He explained that 𝒊𝒈 was what they called a Titan-born, someone possessed of a unique, terrifying strength that defied all standard martial logic. Recalling a memory, Sebastian once asked 𝒊𝒈 what kind of training he was doing. 𝒊𝒈's answer: stretching, just simple, weirdly intense stretching. To 𝒊𝒈, flexibility meant elasticity. And it was that specific elasticity that gave the bully his insane resilience and explosive power during a fight. 𝒊𝒈 had once casually hopped out of a second-story window, telling them he'd see them tomorrow. Sebastian watched in disbelief as the guy landed perfectly. That's his secret. His body instinctively absorbs and avoids damage that would kill a normal man. It's pure, animalistic intuition over any refined knightly technique. Sebastian told the senior that the result was a fighter who relied 100% on his physical gifts. 𝒊𝒈 had zero finesse, just a hair-trigger temper and a mountain of muscle. The senior student wondered if 𝒊𝒈 was too much of a gamble to trust. Sebastian didn't have a straight answer, but he posed a terrifying question instead. Imagine a man like 𝒊𝒈, who already defeated every elite fighter in the arena using only brute force, actually starting to train and use proper technique. Could a monster like that even be defeated? The thought alone was enough to make anyone rethink their bets on who truly ruled the academy. Back at the table, 𝒊𝒈 was fuming. He was actually losing the coin game to 𝒊𝒏𝒈. "I've been losing way too much lately," he growled. He suspiciously asked if 𝒊𝒏𝒈 had taken private lessons in crown flip to be this good. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 just stared at him, wondering if the guy was actually serious. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 looked at his own hand. His body still remembered the old training rhythms, but the truth was simpler. 𝒊𝒈 was just absolutely terrible at this game. Annoyed by his losing streak, 𝒊𝒈 demanded another round. He wasn't ready to let it go, but 𝒊𝒏𝒈 had finally had enough of the stalling. "That's plenty," 𝒊𝒏𝒈 said. He asked how many times they were going to do this. He even offered to let 𝒊𝒈 just pretend he'd won so they could move on. 𝒊𝒈 was baffled. 𝒊𝒏𝒈 told him he'd accept whatever conditions the bully wanted for their actual duel. At first, 𝒊𝒈 looked ready to explode with rage. But he stopped. He went quiet, his mind suddenly spinning with a new plan. He realized now wasn't the time for a mindless tantrum, not if he wanted to win. Julian is just standing there, totally baffled. Out of nowhere, Arthur steps up and agrees to the exact terms Lord Percival set earlier. Like, seriously. Julian is fuming. You can see the irritation on his face. He starts to cook up a plan but stops himself. He knows now isn't the time to make a move. To seal the deal on this insane proposal, 𝒊𝒈 warns the new guy that there's no room for regrets later. The stage is set. This Friday, at the designated training grounds, Arthur doesn't even flinch. He just tells the bully to fix his wounded arm already. "I hate watching you struggle through the pain," he mocks. Julian suddenly bolts upright, telling everyone to hold on just 1 second. Hands slammed on the table, Julian demands to know why Arthur would even consider this. Why accept a duel on that snake 𝒊𝒈's terms? Arthur just shrugs, saying they should be grateful 𝒊𝒈 even bothered to book the arena. But Julian isn't buying it, not for a second. It's sketchy. 𝒊𝒈 wants the fight held right in front of the second-year nobles. Arthur just tilts his head. Is it really that weird? Alaric claims it's all about the code of honor. The duel happens at the gymnasium under official rules, and yeah, he invited the seniors. He claims he doesn't fight dirty like some people. Confused, Julian asks who he's talking about, but the blonde prick plays dumb. Arthur is actually down for the plan. He doesn't care what Alaric is plotting, but he has one tiny little request for the bully. Bring those 2 bald lackeys of yours, too. Pure madness. Alaric actually laughs. He loves how absolutely unhinged this new guy is. The match is confirmed. Arthur crosses his arms, thinking that once Alaric is dealt with, he's going after the seniors next. Time to end their little protection money racket once and for all. Priorities, right? Then he turns to see if Barnaby is okay. He invites Barnaby to sit and maybe play another trivia game, but poor Barnaby is a wreck, crying and wishing for the apocalypse. Right then, Cedric watches his bully leave the room. He's heard the rumors. Is this new student really the legendary Arthur Sterling? He rushes to Arthur's classroom, practically tripping over his feet. He asks for Arthur Sterling, but Arthur has no clue who that is. Eleanor steps in to clarify. His name is actually Sterling Arthur. Cedric fumbles an apology, looking like he's about to have a heart attack. He gathers every ounce of courage, eyes squeezed shut, and drops the most bizarre request you've ever heard. He begs Arthur for a favor. Please, beat Alaric to a pulp, but you have to lose the fight in the end. Wait, what? Arthur is completely lost. Eleanor loses it. She tells him to talk sense and stop acting like a total creep out of nowhere. Cedric finally starts explaining. He realizes he should probably tell them who he is first. He explains the dark side of the academy, the hidden betting ring called Toto. It's an underground gambling system, and Alaric is the face of it. The second-year squires have all placed massive wagers on this fight. Everyone is betting on the clash between Alaric and Arthur. And here's the kicker. There's a specific reason Arthur must lose. Arthur is curious now. What could possibly be worth throwing a fight over, especially since he's not exactly the losing type? Cedric struggles to find the words, and we flash back to a dark night. Alaric has a weak student trapped in a brutal leg lock. He's scrolling through his phone, mocking the kid for thinking he'd ever actually apologize. He tightens the grip, enjoying the pain. He demands to know how much the student paid the senior, veterans. The poor kid chokes out the answer, 500 gold sovereigns. Alaric is thrilled. My balance is 500 now, he sneers. He demands the cash immediately and mentions the 3 pigs are next. Later, Alaric finds a local shop closed. Frustrated about his missing 500,000 coins, he turns his sights on Cedric's purse. Alaric realizes the money actually belongs to a guy named Hugh. He decides to borrow it, but there's a catch for Cedric. He's putting the debt in Cedric's name. Cedric is terrified. Isn't this just illegal loan sharking? Alaric doesn't care, not at all. He promises to pay it back soon. His plan? Bet everything on his own fight against Arthur. It's a guaranteed lottery win in his eyes. He's convinced he'll be the victor. He pressures Cedric to make the call and get the gold, promising glory after his victory. Back in the present, Cedric explains the nightmare. If Arthur wins, Cedric will never see that money again and he's basically dead. Eleanor looks at him with a sweet smile and asks if he actually wants Arthur to lose to that scumbag. Cedric quietly says yes. She looks like she's about to snap Cedric's neck right then and there. Are you trying to die? She screams, lunging at him. Julian has to hold her back while shouting for help. Meanwhile, Arthur is actually thinking. He asks what Cedric can offer him. Cedric thought he'd do it out of the goodness of his heart. Big mistake. Arthur asks if Cedric is any good at the royal tongue. Turns out Cedric is a genius at high English. Arthur grins. He won't lose to Alaric, but he will give him a legendary beating. He tells Cedric they'll meet after class. Cedric is terrified, thinking Arthur is going to pummel him too, but Arthur has other plans. He just needs Cedric to have a vocabulary match with Barnaby, who's currently catatonic on the floor. He needs a tutor, basically. Blushing like crazy, Eleanor offers to teach Arthur English instead. Arthur just stares at her, sweating bullets. Talk about awkward. Perfect. Our boy Arthur isn't just confident, he's certain. He's not losing to a guy like Percival. Meet me after the academy bells, he says. Oh, it is on. Lady Catherine is losing it. You're really going to thrash him, she asks, shocked. Arthur just gives her a look. Relax. He's got a different kind of battle in mind. Turns out, he just needs to win a high-stakes linguistic duel against Lord Yanni's, who is currently face down on the floor. That's why he needs Catherine's help. She is blushing hard now. I could give you private English lessons instead, she offers. Arthur just stares back, sweating like crazy. Talk about an awkward silence. Stuttering and shaking, Thomas finally spits it out. The mission starts today. Arthur just nods, drifting deep into thought. Honestly, flattening Lord Percival would be a walk in the park, but Arthur knows he can't just go around crossing lines. Meddling in street squabbles outside the academy, not a good look. Soon, the sun dips low, painting the kingdom in gold. Deep in the city's shadows, a voice calls out. Arthur turns, it's Thomas, tailing along with our protagonist. Thomas is skeptical. He reckons the new guy is far too confident about taking down the school bully, Percival. Why don't you gamble like Percival does? Thomas asks, while Arthur keeps his nose buried in a book about wealth. Thomas calls himself a total failure who can't bet, but says Arthur has the spark. Arthur, he's just confused. I'm broke, Arthur says flatly. Thomas pivots, acting like they just happened to stumble upon this specific building. Turns out, this is the shady den where Percival and Thomas borrow their gold. Arthur goes dead silent. Glasses off. Arthur realizes Thomas has been leading him here the whole time. Was the walk just a setup? Thomas blathers about brain activation from walking, but Arthur is done. He looks up. The mood shifts instantly. Do you want me to go in there and borrow gold? Arthur asks. Thomas flinches, looking absolutely terrified. Relax, I won't hit you, Arthur sighs. Finally, Thomas admits it. He really did want the gold after all. Arthur checks a card for the Iron Vault. Pure underworld business. Looks like night-tier trouble, he mutters. With a cold stare, Arthur tells Thomas to beat it. He's going in alone. Meanwhile, at the training grounds, Percival is hammering out pull-ups. A lackey asks if they secured the coin. Yeah, Percival grins. Thomas actually helped. They got the vault's contact and a fat loan in advance. Now the bully is sitting on a mountain of gold. He's not wasting time. He's dumping it all into high-stakes mana stone trading. His mates are worried, though. Borrowing from the Iron Vault, that's breaking the law, but Percival just shrugs. High risk, high reward, right? He heaves himself up, flexing with a wicked smile. He thinks he's the king of the world right now. Back at the den, Arthur finds the place empty. Is it time to bail? Just as he turns, a man appears. Dressed in a dark cloak with a heavy watch, the man sneers. You here for a loan, boy? He's fuming, cursing his guards for leaving their posts. Arthur tries to get a word in, but the man is on a tear. He realizes Arthur's a student. Lately, you academy kids are always begging for coin, he scoffs, opening the door. Come in, it's getting dark. They sit. The man, Silas, gets straight to business. How much do you need? But first, how old are you? Suddenly, the tension in the room triples. Panic, Arthur blurs out 17, then quickly switches to 20. In his head, he's screaming, I messed up. Silas is livid. What are you playing at? Do you think this guild is some kind of joke, brat? Arthur stands up, offering the worst excuse ever. I forgot my laundry on the line. He moves for the door. Stay right there. Silas doesn't give a damn about laundry. He's not letting this kid walk away. It's a clear night, kid. No rain. Silas leans in. You need to be smarter than that if you're gonna lie. Things are getting suspicious. Silas glares. Who exactly are you? Arthur breaks into a cold sweat. Silence. Arthur ignores him, turns his back, and tries to make a break for the exit. Grab. Silas catches his arm with an iron grip. I'm not done with you yet, you little rat. Silas is losing his patience. He thinks Arthur is a spy for a rival gang. Where do you think you're going? Which gang sent you? Silas growls. But then Arthur moves. He grabs Silas's hand back. Crunch. Arthur squeezes until the man screams in pure agony. Silas is begging, his pride completely shattered. Arthur just looks annoyed. This is why I said I'd come back later. I'm leaving, now. Don't follow me, Arthur warns. But Silas, he's seeing red. He grabs a heavy metal tray to bash Arthur's head. Too slow. Arthur snatches the tray midair, flinging it aside like it's nothing. Then comes the finishing blow, a brutal chop directly to the crown of Silas's head. Boom! The impact is so violent it practically deforms his skull, slamming him back into his chair, unconscious. Arthur stands there staring at his hands. He acted on instinct again. Great, he mutters. Now I'm in deep. He heads for the door, planning to vanish, but then he stops. A realization hits him. Silas is out cold. This is the perfect chance to raid his secret ledgers. Time to see who else owes gold. Julian scans the dusty records and finds Count Kaelin's name, wondering if simply burning the page would end this. Suddenly, our hero freezes while flipping through the scrolls, a portrait of the Grand Duke himself practicing his archery. Why is the Academy's highest noble in this shady ledger? Before he can think, footsteps echo down the hall. A guard wanders in, bragging about a hearty bowl of boar stew. Julian realizes he is in deep trouble now. He knows his only move is to bolt, but the heavy oak door swings wide, face to face with a guard. The man growls, demanding to know how a student slipped in. Julian's heart is racing and his palms are sweating. Thinking fast, Julian bluffs that the High Lord has arrived and the Master is resting, so stay far away. He marches out the front door like he owns the place, claiming his business is finally finished for today. Behind him, the thugs mention other squires were snooping yesterday. They head inside to wake the boss with laughter. They start screaming when they find him unconscious. Julian watches from the shadows, waiting for the chaos to erupt. One man roars, demanding they catch the insolent bastard, but Julian is already a ghost, vanishing into the night. Dusk falls. Julian collapses onto a bench in the royal woods, absolutely exhausted from that narrowest of narrow escapes. He wonders if poking this hornet's nest was worth the risk. Will the king's men come hunting for him? He glares at the sky, bad vibes everywhere. It's not even raining, but the air feels heavy and suffocating tonight. He considers asking the Lord Chancellor about the Grand Duke's portrait, but decides to focus on Sir Alistair first. He checks his communication crystal for the weather. Friday's the duel, and it is going to be a total storm. Just his luck. He hates fighting in the mud. Fast forward to Friday, the storm has finally arrived in full. It's a miserable night, but the time has finally come to settle the score between the bully Alistair and Julian. A lackey asks Alistair if his broken arm has healed yet. He scoffs, claiming he didn't even need a healer. He feels a few twinges, sure, but clenches his fist. Julian's attack was nothing. He is still a god here. His mercenary contact arrives on horseback. Alistair smirks. Everyone's here. It is finally time to settle this blood feud. They enter the chosen arena, an abandoned, crumbling cathedral. The atmosphere is heavy with the scent of old, cold stone. The squires are awestruck. Alistair explains this ruin is a secret training ground for the city's most brutal knights. Inside, the senior squires are already prepping the floor. This isn't just a duel, it's a full-blown gladiatorial spectacle. Alistair suggests a real spar instead of their usual gambling games, but the leader just isn't in the mood. Just a joke, Alistair says. He looks around. Have the legendary High Knights of the Path finally arrived yet? Right on cue, the second-year squires emerge. The air gets heavy. These guys are the elite order of the Iron Path. The younger boys bow in terror. These aren't just students. They are the Path Gang led by Sir Magnus. One squire notes their terrifying aura. The bald leader looks at the blonde mercenary with pure, unadulterated suspicion. He mocks the mercenary's dyed hair, saying it reeks of shame. He asks the student if he follows the path. The boy is clueless, but the leader just laughs. They've prepared a throne for Magnus, and he sits heavily. Where is he? Magnus wonders. If that new student doesn't show up soon, he is going to lose his patience. Outside, people are huddling under cloaks in the rain. It's Julian's group, marching toward the final, bloody showdown tonight. Julian tells his friends to go home, but Arthur refuses. They are a brotherhood. They stay together until the end. Arthur promises they've got his back. Julian eyes Arthur's massive, heavy backpack. What exactly is in that heavy thing? Contingency plans, Arthur says. The enemy has the numbers, so I brought reinforcements. Julian tells him to drop it. Cedric is hyped. He's got a strategy to dismantle Alistair. But Julian, he's already 10 steps ahead of everyone. He figured out Alistair's fatal flaw during their little gambling match. The trap is already set and ready for him. Several figures trek through the downpour, huddling under cloaks. It's Julian's group, finally arriving at the dark cathedral. Julian tells them to turn back, but his friends refuse. They know the elite senior squires are waiting inside. Arthur vows the group will always have his back. Julian sighs, asking what is stuffed inside that heavy, bulging backpack. Arthur claims the enemy has the numbers, so he brought some. Unconventional reinforcements. Julian tells him to drop it. The blonde mercenary is hyped. He's got intel on Alistair's fighting style. But Julian's already 10 steps ahead today. Julian already figured out the bully's weakness during their gambling games. The blonde is completely lost by that revelation. Cedric thinks he misheard the part about gambling, while Julian glares at his crystal because the war starts now. Something went wrong. He apologizes, telling his squires to head to the Great Hall without him. Go on, he says. I'll catch up in a bit. Back at the Academy's Great Hall, the new recruits from Arthur's class are standing their ground against Alaric. Yeah, that bald powerhouse. Alaric's not happy. He realizes the star player is missing, and the group is basically asking everyone to wait for one guy based on a pinky promise. Lord Percival, being his usual arrogant self, starts talking trash. Did he run away? He sneers. Scared of a real fight? But the squad isn't having it. Arthur isn't a coward. Period. Meanwhile, one of the elite senior knights with those sharp glasses realizes that the red-haired squire is actually Arthur's loyal friend. They realize they've got no choice but to wait. The seniors tell the squires to make themselves comfortable, if they can even relax with this much tension. Lady Beatrice, the blonde noble, takes a seat, whispering that Arthur's reputation just saved their necks. But man, the Obsidian Order. Their aura is absolutely suffocating. All 5 top executives are here in the flesh. We're talking the heavy hitters, Julian III, Silas IV. And the 5th seat, Lord Sterling. It's a total shock. Every senior in the hall belongs to the Obsidian Order, and as they file in, the air gets cold. But then the doors swing open again. A new group arrives, titled as the Brotherhood of the Iron Shield. This is Commander Cedric, the leader of the Brotherhood. He looks around and drops a truth bomb. This is a squire's duel. Why are you elites meddling? And that's where the story pauses. If you want to see the fallout of this confrontation, hit that notification bell right now. Don't miss out on the next chapter. See you next time on the channel for more epic recaps.